What's happening, everybody? I'm Steve, and welcome back to Junkdrummer TV, and welcome back to episode number 3 of Know Your Role. And I am very excited to have my new internet man crush, Ben Hilzinger, who was so gracious to let me come on his podcast, the Big Fat Five podcast, which we'll be talking about later, to talk about Levon Helm. And we fell in love, and we decided to do another podcast. So, Ben, can you suggest to me what is the best wine to have a podcast with?
Oh my gosh. Well, the one in my glass always is my answer. But tonight I'm doing a Trader Joe's Roulette Rouge, just a California red wine. But I actually like Malbecs. I mean, you asked the question, so I'm actually going to answer you because I went to school for wine. So I like a
That's right.
Malbec or a Syrah, a nice medium body, spicy wine. It's not going to be too tannic, so my teeth won't get super purple
There you go. So
as
you
I
won't
keep
look like you're
drinking.
drinking wine.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. It's we'll just edit out. I'll be holding up a drumstick as I drink.
So you were a winemaker or an assistant winemaker at one point?
Dude, yeah. So I graduated college and just went right into touring and did all that jazz through the Northwest. Then moved to Corvallis, Oregon, which is a little bit south of Portland. Just did all that, and then I kind of got burnt out. I mean, I just was in my early 20s and was doing all the wrong things. And that when that band that I moved to Corvallis for stopped keeping on, I went back to Spokane, Washington, and went to school for just like a generic degree, just kind of figuring myself out. And then I was never a big drinker until until kind of mid 20s. Um, and yeah, just wine has like art, history, science, all in the same thing. So I literally just Craigslist ad applied to this place called Arborcrest, which is like a summer like events. Just someone points at a wine, I pour it, and they give me $5, and whatever. And then that turned into like a 3 year, employment with Arborcrest. And then I moved to Seattle, went to school for wine. I ended up quitting school to go back into music. But yeah, I took kind of a sabbatical from music in my mid 20s to be a winemaker.
That's an interesting journey right there. Like,
No, I know.
so of course Ben is the drummer for Eve 6. He's also the other guy for Big Fat Snare Drum. Also,
Yes.
for all you drummers out there that are looking for endorsements, just email him, just hit him up, and he'll hook you right up.
Just name drop Steve, and I'll give you 1,000% off.
So, all of the first couple interviews that I've done, there's no way around it because of the world that we're in right now. How has this lockdown and pandemic affected your playing schedule and your playing in general?
First of all, I have to say I'm in such a good mood because I'm not hosting this podcast. I always get so stressed out when I
I
have to be
see
the
this is I just
host.
want you to come and just be a guest, brother.
Yeah, this is great. Um, no, it's been good. I mean, as I'm sure any drummer who tours would say, like when you're on tour, you play the least amount of drums always. I play during sound check and then I play the show, and then other than that, I don't even look at my drums. And so I'm lucky to live in LA and have a house where my drums are in the house. So I've actually been playing more drums than I ever have. And the lockdown has been, not to be insensitive to everything else that's going on, but playing wise, it's been one of the best things in the world for me because uh, a big reason why I'm talking to you right now is because I rekindled my love for Levon Helm and the songwriter drummers, the guys that don't hit like crazy. Because before this, I mean, I was on the road 8 months out of the year and I was only playing the Eve 6, the fast, hard rock drums. And every time I'd go in a studio, I'd hear myself, and I was starting to grow out of playing like that. I don't listen to that kind of music that much anymore, really at all. And I love Keltner, Gordon, both those gyms, and then Steve Gadd and Levon Helm. And I was just about 7 months ago, I was like, dude, this is the time that I want to just totally reevaluate my technique, everything about my playing, because I want to be a drummer that can play when I'm like 90 and just groove. And growing up with Blink and punk rock and stuff, it's just like I've kind of grown out of wanting to play like that, but I just kept playing like that because I just got paid to play like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And so now it's like, dude, I just want to be a totally different drummer, totally different setup. um Yeah, it's been the best year of my life when it comes to evaluating what the hell kind of drummer I want to be.
So now you're excited to kind of flex those new muscles that you've strengthened when we finally do get to go play.
Yeah, I wouldn't say strengthen. I would say warmed up. You know what I mean? Like it's like like it sucks when you're a drummer that just plays hard and just plays rock. It's like you can kind of hide behind the showmanship, and
Right.
then when you actually want to be like a good drummer, you're like, oh shit, this is hard.
Oh
They
my
don't tell you that
goodness.
being a good drummer is hard.
This Northwest humility. I watched you play on Instagram. This dude's a bad
Oh,
man. This man can
well, thank
play.
you,
What was
thank you.
man? I mean, maybe putting you on the spot, but that one tune that you're playing on your Instagram, and it sounds like it's got a bunch of shifting time signatures in it. Do you know what I'm talking about? It has some kind of a weird filter on it.
Yeah, yeah. So it was probably one of my most recent ones that weirdly enough, I just took off my main page. It's still on my Instagram, but it'll be on like the IGTV thing. And I feel so bad. It was Jason Homaker is the drummer. And a backstory behind that is I'm part of this thing called Indie Drum Collective. And every month we just choose an album or a certain genre, and we all just in the collective do a cover, and then we upload it. And we all kind of tag each other. It's kind of a community, and so
Nice.
that one specifically was just it was Secret Santa, and so we were paired up with another drummer in the indie drum collective. So I was just playing his song, and he's like a DC hardcore guy. I mean, like when I was trying to figure out which song to play, there was like 10 bands he was in, and they're all really rad. And I'm gonna try and actually look at which one it is now because I'm sure I saved it.
It's yeah. It seemed like it felt like it had a bunch of different time signatures, and it was running me nuts trying to figure out which one it was. It has
Yeah,
like a
well, let me.
weird filter on the recording.
Well, the funny thing is that's just the EAD10, the Yamaha EAD10.
Ooh, let's talk about that because a student just brought that up to me, and I think I kind of want it.
Yes. Before we do, let me. So it's the song's called "Nothing to Water" by Regents, and yeah, the song goes back between 4/4 and 5/4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, man, the way that that part is written, it hides that time signature.
I agree. I agree. That's why I picked it because most of his well, he also doesn't play to a click ever.
Oof.
And so a lot of his songs when I was trying to figure out what to do, I'm like, I can't like you don't want to cover a song where you're just flamming the whole time. So
Right.
that was the one song on that record by Regents that actually just grooved. Not that they didn't groove. He has a great pocket, but I was like, oh, I can maybe play to this. Yeah, but no, dude, the EAD10 um I got burnt out on it because
This is not an endorsement at all because you're not endorsing anybody by
no,
anything.
no, no, no. If
You are
anything,
one of the
I'm
few, and
about
I
to say
love.
something very bad.
Well, I love that about you, and I really want to know about it because I'm thinking
Cool.
about it. It's a little pricey. I just did drop $1,000 on a new electronic drum set. So,
Yeah.
but if it's a something that would make things on my end easier to do some of these uh, uh, quarantine covers that me and the drunk uncles on my other podcast, please check that out, has been doing.
Nice.
See how I did there? Uh, total pros, as they say in Chicago.
Oh yeah.
Total pros. I really want to know about it. Is it cool? It seems cool, but does it trigger the bass drum or does it mic the bass drum?
It's amazing. It does. You can add triggers to it, um, but it's really weird. I'm gonna describe it so horribly. And I think the one disservice I would say that Yamaha did when releasing it is not explaining enough about what it was.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, because
so
I've
basically,
watched a
it's
bunch
a
of videos about it, but no one
yeah,
is telling me how it's working and why it works.
it's an XY stereo microphone that you attach to your bass drum, and it picks up a pretty good even representation of your kit. And I think because it's attached to the bass drum, there is a receptor in there that actually picks up the vibration from your bass drum. So when you're actually playing, you have the stereo mix that you're hearing, and then you can also blend in the bass drum trigger that for every different setting has like a different bass drum sound. So yes, it does trigger, but it's not.
Can you use it as
Yeah,
not a bass drum trigger?
absolutely. You can fade that all the way down, so you're just getting
Okay.
XY. Yeah, I actually never use the trigger because the bass drum is. I mean, it's clipped to the bass drum, so you're getting a bunch of that in your mix. And I actually would like to have my own bass drum sound as opposed to arena rock. you know.
Yeah, man. I am okay with being a dinosaur when it comes to like, I don't know if you're a big jazz guy, but you'll probably can appreciate this. Uh, I've been kind of messing around with back and forth with the Drummers Collective and them adding me as like one of their online instructors.
Mm.
And were so New York. They're like, yeah, man, we really think that, drummers should know more about technology, which is true. And then he goes, yeah, and like everybody just triggers now. He goes, like the bass drum at the blue note's triggered. And like I'm on a Skype call and I'm just like, oh, really? Don't Brats, no, don't trigger the bass drum at the blue note. Like is
I
nothing
would like to.
sacred?
I'm gonna go ahead and say that that's not true. I'm just gonna say.
Okay. Well, that
I mean,
I'm
I
telling
wouldn't
you,
know. I
those
have
cats.
no
That's what they said.
authority.
That's what those guys said, and I was
Oh my.
hurting. I was hurting inside.
Sure. I mean, I, I don't. Why would you do that?
Yeah,
Who
right.
wants to have a consistent, during a?
In
I
jazz
don't know.
music,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like I've done some arena shows and I understand that's just easier. You're at
Nice little
15,000.
humble brag there.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I mean, I've done a few. You've done
I've
more.
done Live Aid 1985 a few times.
Oh
I
man, I
just
was I was I was there in case Phil Collins didn't make it
yeah.
when he didn't if his plane was late.
Well, his playing wasn't that good that day anyway. Like, well, his piano playing, I guess, wasn't.
Wasn't that the one where Phil Collins played on two continents?
Yeah, he flew, yeah, from Wembley to like Philadelphia or
And he ended up
something.
playing with like Led Zeppelin or something. What did
Yeah,
he
and he got,
know?
yeah, you like, I mean, hey, here's the thing. I love Phil Collins, but he wasn't prepared that day.
No,
And
no. That's a
have you
gimmick.
actually read his book, by the way?
No, but I'm going to because I do
You
love Phil
have to.
Collins. I love
You
him.
have to. He is the most rock star. He knows everyone.
Really?
His story, dude, his stories are crazy. I think that book's like, oh my God. I'm trying to think like I'm looking at my interface right now. It's about as thick as my interface, so
Okay.
maybe like, I don't know how many pages that would be, 400, 500 pages.
That's a
And
lot
I
of
think
broken heart stories in there too.
oh, he gets into all that stuff about just how he is uh, a piece of shit in so many ways. But yeah, he's not trying to save face in that one, but it's such a good movie. But or sorry, it'll be a movie someday when they make the Phil Collins movie. But it's a great book. I think I read it in like 3 days.
As long as it doesn't become a musical like Rocket Man.
I actually
God,
never saw Rocket Man just because
try it.
I'm so against the
I
vibe of what that movie put out.
I dare you to try
I mean,
to
I
watch it.
need to. I
It's
probably will.
oh man, it's such. I mean, dude, that guy has such a great story. Let's not make this into a Broadway show. Let's just tell the stories. The
I
guy can
want to.
sing just like him though. Like the
What's his
Elton John
name?
character. I don't know, but there's he's like on some show over in England and he's singing with Elton John and he really does sound like young Elton John. It's the guy's really talented that did him in the movie.
I think when we're talking about like people that look like the guy they're doing, Jamie Foxx doing Ray Charles, I think like you can't beat that.
Dude, it's hard to follow that guy. And if you
Yeah.
notice like that's kind of the last best one of those movies.
Hmm.
Because like I really liked Bohemian Rhapsody when I saw it in the theater because I'm a huge Queen fan. But since I've watched it since then, I'm like, this wasn't as good as how you when you go into something and like you just want it to be good and you just kind of give it a
Sure.
pass, like the new
Yeah.
Star Wars movies. And then
Yeah.
and then you watch them again, I'm like, oh, this is lacking in places. And Ray is the pinnacle of it. Because I just watched that and he's when he sings as himself, but then there's times where he's lip syncing, and you really can't tell the fucking difference, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Well, what didn't he play a Ray Charles in a song? Like somebody had him
Oh
do
yeah,
money.
it was a Gold Digger by Kanye West. He like
Yeah,
did that
so,
sample.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, dude, we can just have him. We can just have Ray Charles now because Jamie Foxx is alive.
Yeah, I think to go back to Bohemian Rhapsody, maybe there's a chance that I might like it if I rewatch it because I've only watched it once and it was with it wasn't with Eve Six, it was with one of our other bands that me and Max from Eve Six are in, called Fitness, and we were on tour with Big Data. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that
Mm.
band, but it was awesome. Like maybe like our band, their band, like our crews, and then like 10 other people in the audience. And Max from Eve Six, love him to death. He loves to if he doesn't think something's good in a movie, he'll just laugh or
he's a
say something.
needler, right?
Yeah,
He
exactly. Yeah,
puts a
yeah.
needle.
He fiddles with things. And yeah, so there was a scene in Bohemian Rhapsody when I think Remy's like talking about like he's like maybe he's coming out or he's like asking her to he's when he's asking her to marry him, and it was just that the scene was so poorly done, I think, in the moment that Max and a few of the guys just started cracking up laughing during this like really emotional scene. It
Oh
wasn't when he
no.
was coming out, it was when he was asking her to marry him, and it was just like everyone turned around, they're like, dude, what the hell? And so I think in my head I was like, yeah, this movie sucks because my bandmates think it sucks, so there you go.
The scene where he does the shot by shot of the Wembley Stadium show and
Mm,
is was pretty sweet. That was really dead on. And how
yeah.
they got everyone in that movie to look exactly like their avatars is insane. Because the Brian May dude looks just like Brian May. And the John
Yes, he
Deacon
does.
guy
Him
looks
especially, yeah.
exactly like John Deacon. Yeah, you could tell that movie was written by the people who lived the history. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? If you know what I mean, you
I
can
mean,
tell that those guys were
yeah,
really
yeah.
wanting to make sure that they came off okay. It was just
But
like,
wouldn't you love Queen more if they allowed themselves to look kind of shitty?
well, that's the reason why Sacha Baron Cohen got thrown off at the beginning because he was going to be Freddie Mercury originally, but he didn't want any input from the band. And come on, man, we've all been a band. We've all been the asshole. You know
Oh
what I
yeah,
mean? We've all
definitely.
been the asshole, and it just seemed like Brian May was like, I'm not going to be seen as an asshole. I can control the message here, and I'm going to.
I'm rarely
This
the asshole. I'm just the sad, depressed guy that doesn't talk to anyone for 3 days. That's like
I'll,
my asshole.
but then people think you're an asshole because you come off
Exactly.
aloof.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Like the opening local bands, like that drummer wouldn't even talk to me, man.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Exactly. Oh my gosh.
The scene in the movie where I was like, oh, Brian May made sure to make himself look good in this movie, and we all want to be the heroes of our stories, is when he's cutting a solo, and it's probably for Bohemian Rhapsody, and Freddie like stops it, and he's like, oh shit, it's terrible. And then Brian May's like, what? And he's like, oh no, I'm joking, it's amazing. I'm like, oh come on, man, you don't put yourself
The
over
whole yeah,
that
that whole
hard.
barn scene area of them recording that was
Yeah, when they will the we need to get experimental.
yeah, exactly. Oh, and they're like, "Oh, let's hang them upside down," you know? Yeah, that whole montage is
Yeah,
hilarious.
yep.
Let's use buckets, you know?
Well, the thing is, we've all been in the studio where that guy does that, right?
Yeah,
But it's
and it's
never
usually
like,
me, to be honest, yeah.
oh, yeah.
Well, it's
What
what
if we?
Big Fat Snare Drum's entire company is based off of, is being that guy.
Well, let's talk about that because,
Okay.
man, I've been working in a music shop for 20 plus years, and I've
Mhm.
been to NAMS and I've been to PASICS, and I don't care about gear. I
Yeah,
think that everything that's been made is what we need, and anything else. You said it really nicely after our podcast the other day. Like
nice.
it's just there because there's nothing else to invent.
Oh, they're creating a problem that doesn't exist to have a product that fixes that problem. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
But the last two things that I think that are innovations, and I'm not blowing smoke because when you texted me at first to go on your podcast, I immediately sent you a picture of like I keep the original Big Fat Snare on my snare drum
Mhm.
in my case. That and the drum dots. And if you don't know what the drum dots are, they're the circular versions of the moon gels. And I
Mhm.
don't know why, but they're so much better than moon gels. I think something has to do with it being a circle. But your product, which you are the one of the two company members,
Yes.
that is one of the last times that an innovation actually worked, and like you said, it wasn't fixing a problem that doesn't exist. That's a really good product. I've used it multiple times. I found that they work better on wood or metal snares.
Yeah, I mean, we're not I mean, I'm not the advocate that it works with everything. I mean, to be honest, with Eve 6, I don't use a big fat snare drum because that's supposed to
Right.
be that highly cranked,
Oh yeah,
superphonic
you got to
rim
have
shot
resonance.
snare.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Um, but yeah, Chris just hit on something. I mean, it was just a necessity because he was you know that band LMFAO?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so Chris was the band the guy in that band. He was the drummer for that band, and those guys definitely live their lives the way that they sing about. And Chris, the owner of Big Fat Snare Drum, has never had a drop of alcohol, doesn't smoke. I mean, he's just like never not been sober.
Okay.
And so after every show, he had all this time when they'd go out, and so he just built this company because he was doing all this backline gear, and it was just, I won't name us. I was gonna name a company and then name a snare from that company, but just say a generic shitty snare. And he's like, "This is the backline snare." So he just needed that thuddy snare, and he just made this. I mean, I think the one that we sell today is like prototype 7 or 8. And so yeah, it's. I love the company. I was a fan of the company before I played it. I now have obviously every like possible version we have, but it's just he's such a mentor in the way to just not pay for marketing. He's never paid for advertisement in like the ways you'd think. He's just a grassroots drummer who's part of the community. And
Product made in America as well.
exactly, yep, everything. Yeah, it's actually he almost, yeah, we could be making a lot more money if we didn't have our product be made in America.
Right.
Believe me. I can,
But we
my sweater
appreciate
would
that
be
you
a lot
do.
nicer right now.
That would be cashmere.
Yeah.
But I the thing that I like the most about it, and I used it. If you want to check out it being used, go on my channel and look up the cover that we did of Elvis Costello's Cheap Rewards, because I'm using it on the snare drum there. And I
Nice.
didn't know that you all had tom versions of it, because I have the rest of the toms with handkerchiefs on them,
Mm,
and they kept fucking falling off while I was playing, and
as they do.
like messing up takes. And I was like, man,
Yeah.
they should make, and now you do have individual tom sound or tom sizes for
Yeah,
those.
I mean they're just like different sizes. So we have like anything from 10 to 18 inches on most
I
of
could
the
have used a
most
12 and a
popular ones.
16. I could have used a 12 and a 16 that night.
Yeah, the thing with the tea towels is even if they don't fall off, it's hard to get a consistent sound because they do kind of move around a little bit,
Yep.
And so if you're doing overdubs and just throwing in a fill, it's like, well, I mean, we're the ones that's gonna know. Not many people will, but
Right.
it's still you wanna know that and it's good.
So
But
you've got a new single out. Is this correct, Mr.
Black,
Hilsinger?
yes, yes. So Black Nova, and yeah. So it's we actually recorded it back in January of 2020,
Okay.
and we were gonna release a whole EP. We are gonna go on tour for like 7 weeks starting in February, and then of course it got pushed back to April, then July, then Ben, find find other ways to make money for the next 5,000 years.
Yep.
So yeah, we finally, the good thing is that we were able to remix it. So this is a new single from Eve 6 called Black Nova, by the way. Came out a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago.
We'll put
And
a link in the description of that song, of course.
yeah, it's a fun song. It's funny. I never leave the snare drum, kick, and hi-hat. It's just, I think the only fill I do is 40 and a boom. And it's like a Billie Jean beat. And it's funny, I was actually playing it the other day because we might be doing this thing I can't talk about yet, live stream. But I was playing along to it, and the song is just like very aggressive the whole time, just like eighth notes in the hi-hat, but like everything is just pounding the whole time. It's like a 3.5 minute song, but after like a minute and a half, I was like, dude, I haven't played a full song at show level for a year. And I was like,
Yep.
I don't remember. I'm not looking forward to the first time we come back and I have to play that 90-minute set at 5 in the afternoon in July. I'm literally gonna die. But
Dude, we're all gonna, all of our, like, all everybody's chops are gonna be okay. It'll be either or. Your chops will be really honed, but you won't have the endurance of like
yeah,
gigging, or they're just gonna be shit because you've just like given up. Man, I'll be honest, man. When the first, fuck, it's just a terrible admission on a drum teacher channel. I did not practice for a few weeks, maybe even a few months, because it's hard to get. It's the first time I felt unmotivated because I was just like, why? I
dude, I'm with
have
you, man.
I need the fear of failure to get up for it. You know what I mean? I need like a gig that I know that is, important in my head anyway, or maybe we're opening for someone I know that is fantastic, and like, okay, I have something to battle against.
Yeah.
It was hard, man. What I did was I went out and got a double bass pedal for the first time, just to have
Okay.
something new, just to have a
Yeah.
new thing. Cause like I was practicing all my same shit. It's just like, why? She
Well,
ain't got
that's kind of what happened with the quarantine that got me where I said it was like 7 months ago that I really kind of reinvented my playing is because, of course, like everyone did when the lockdown happened, you're like, okay, I'm gonna buy some preamps, and I'm gonna finally
I'm gonna
invest in that
learn guitar
microphone.
now.
Yeah, well, but I mean, I was like investing in my recording at home, and so I was like, I mean, I had a pseudo studio down here, but it wasn't set up, like I could just sit down and just record within 5 minutes. So I set it up that way that I could, and then everything I was recording, I was still playing like this way that I said I didn't want to play anymore, which is just like, rim shots and playing as hard as I can. And I was just like, this sucks. Like I don't like anything I'm hearing. And so yeah, I kind of got demotivated or unmotivated for months. And I was like, I don't like the way I play anymore. Like, and then you just look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, you're not a good drummer, dude. Like you sound okay when you're through a PA and there's guitars on top of you, but I hated everything I was hearing. And then I just took a few weeks or like a month or so and just was like, what do I want to be as a drummer? And then you had one of those, days when you just reevaluate everything. And I was like, dude, I don't listen to that stuff anymore. Like that stuff doesn't inspire me. And then I was like, went through all my like recent plays on Spotify, and I was like, that's the kind of drummer I am now, or want to be now. And that's the kind of drummer that on recording is what everyone wants to hear, you know? It took me a while to figure out all those sounds that I heard in those songs that I love. You can never make, like my favorite records growing up, you can never make your drums sound like that in the room in real time and then also on the setup I had. It's like it's so produced, so sound replaced and everything, and it's just like that's just so not an extension of what I want to say, Like, and going back to Levon Helm, I mean, that's the dude. You're hearing him say something, you know, and how he rarely uses crashes, nothing's abrasive, and that's just the kind of I'm going off on so many tangents, and I apologize.
Please, that's what I got you here for.
But you know
That's
what
what
I
I
mean?
have
It's
you
like
here
that's
for.
just what this whole thing was, and it was just it was I was happy that I got really unmotivated because that was like the darkest time in my playing when I lost my tour, lost most of my income, hated the way I was playing, and add a few other things, and I was just like, what the hell?
Not
Um,
allowed to go get a hug from anybody.
exactly. Yeah, just I need a
You know what I mean?
need a
That was
pep
tough,
talk in
man.
person. Yeah.
Man, people, not to, and again, like you said before, not to downplay what everyone else is going through. Man, musicians, we have been hit extra tough, extra tough.
And we're the last thing that's going to come back.
Yeah, very
The
much
very
so.
last.
I'm so worried about the venues, man. I don't know about you, but I make my touring type living on 500 plus and down,
Hmm.
level venues, and you know the Polaris Amphitheater is always going to be there. You know what I mean? Like the auditoriums and Red Rocks are going to be there, but like, man, those small places, it's going to be real rough.
I mean, you think of Eve Six, most people our age and maybe up know the band, but in like smaller markets, those are the venues that we play to still,
Yeah,
We're not only playing I mean, at the same time, it's just, I mean, well, I think we talked about it last time after we stopped recording where Chris, the owner of Big Fat Snare, plays in another band called Winnetka Bowling League and Winnetka Bowling League. I always mumble that. And they just got off. I mean, they're on RCA. They're doing great. I love their songs. And they had just got off their like fourth tour in a row, and they were just starting to headline, doing
mm.
like 200 cap venues. I mean, they've only been around for a year and a half, but they were just starting to really kill it. And I think that he was saying they got off the road like a week before everything locked down, and it was like a 26-day tour. And I think 20 of the 24 venues they played at on that last tour
Oh God.
are either on, extended hiatus or like officially closed down. And
Ugh,
it's just,
fuck.
yeah. So even when it comes back, it's like, I hope there'll be investors and I hope that people will be like, they want to overcorrect and go out all the time.
I think that's going to. I think that's what's going to happen. That's what I'm hoping will happen. That people will
I
just be
hope,
like, "I'm going out on a 14-day bender. I'm
yeah.
going to hit
Yeah.
every bar in a 100-mile radius that has live
Yeah.
music."
Yeah. It
Well,
was, yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say we just now opened up in LA for outdoor seating again. And so I was driving down Ventura like a week and a half ago when it first started opening up, and just to see people outside, it was like this is weird that it's weird to see people getting served, you know? And
Yeah.
it's going to be so weird to be in a venue and be like, to see a band and just to be like, you're right next to someone. It's going to be a while before you're like, not like, hey, did I hear a sniffle over there? You know, it's going to be interesting.
One of the podcasts I listen to, I'm pretty sure they're based out of Florida, so they're pretty open down there.
Yeah.
And he was talking about going to a bar, and this was the first time that he had seen a band inside of a bar, and it was just like, just no social distancing, none of that. Just
Yeah.
bar was open, and he was just like, they were like a shitty local cover band playing, Parrot Head songs, and he was like, it was the greatest thing I ever saw. He was like, I was so happy to be hearing Jimmy
Yeah.
Buffett. I was so happy to be hearing Jimmy Buffett
I was in the
covers.
front row, hammer drunk.
Hammer drunk, dude. Yeah, like seeing some dad band, like New Balance band, just playing Pirate Looks at 40. And the guy was just like, I'm so appreciative that you've
Everyone's just
come. And
crying in the audience. It was so
seriously,
pretty.
yeah. Can you imagine like when good bands get to go out and play again? If that's what they're thinking about now, like, oh, this VFW band is the best thing I've seen all year.
Dude, I will say a great thing is that festivals are going to be so fucking stacked,
Yeah,
you know,
boy.
because everyone's going to have their new tour cycle that they've, you know, they're gonna everyone's working on their Chinese democracy right now, and so it's
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
come back, and it's just going to be just, you know, the Beatles are going to come back. It's like everyone's going to be there.
Well, I want to talk to you about that. Like, I'm setting my band's setting on a record that was going to be released right around the pandemic, and it's now been setting in a Google Drive for since March.
Yeah.
Did you all have to have a lot of meetings to be like, because if for those who are watching or listening don't know, you release a record, you make a video, not for MTV but YouTube, and then
Yeah.
you tour.
Mm.
Like, did you all like just kind of get sick of waiting because you knew that you weren't like the ability to go out and push it with a tour was just non-existent, and you just said, let's just put it out?
Yeah, well, so we recorded it back in January, and it was going to be a whole thing, the whole cycle like you were talking about, and then we kept putting it back because we were talking to a bunch of record labels or a few, and uh, we just announced that we signed to Velocity Records,
Nice,
and
congratulations, sir.
thanks, man. They've been so awesome, and so
Is your name on that contract, sir?
it's on. I have points on the songs, so I'm
That's
happy
what we're
about
talking
that.
about,
Yeah,
baby.
that's I know. Yeah, I don't.
Mailbox money, Ben.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, so we put out the EP, and I won't get into the logistics of the contract we signed, but we're actually already working on a full length record.
Oh, okay.
So the EP will be coming out on June 25th, and
What's the
maybe I'm
EP's
speaking
name?
to Grim Value.
Nice. That's
Yeah,
cool.
which none of the songs. It was just going to be Eve 6. It was just going to be the kind of a self-titled EP, but yeah, it's called Grim Value. It only has 5 songs on. Not only it has 5 songs.
Yeah.
Pretty excited about it. And yeah, and we're already working on. I'm going to be recording the full length album's worth of drums probably in the next month and a half.
Oh, so
So I'm really
are you
excited.
shedding hard right now?
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, the new style. If people know Black Nova, it's basically just drums, bass, guitar. There's like no maybe there's like guitar pads, you know, at the beginning of every beat, but there's no synth. There's no I think there's a tambourine on a few songs, but super just if you want to hear us in a live stream or live show, it's like it's exactly how the record's going to be.
Nice.
And so the new songs too are just pretty straightforward in a really cool way. Just getting out of the way, you know, maybe playing a fill when Max stops singing, going into the chorus, but it's just grooving and it's so fun. So to answer your question, I am nervous because going back to the Black Nova, like playing halfway through that song, I was like out of breath and my wrist was like shaking because like I don't play those songs anymore. So recording a record of all those songs, you know, and if my band hears it, they're going to be like, Ben, you do not want to be the drummer in our band anymore? That's not what I'm saying. But it's just I don't play that, you know, for like my own personal stuff that I write. I just don't play that kind of drums anymore. So yeah, I'm nervous that I'm gonna have to have like, you know, a million Red Bulls just to get through that session.
But well, I mean, what you're saying is like that's how we evolve. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like that's what artists do. I mean, dude, fucking 20 years ago, I was in a jam band, had long hair, and was like just wanted to open for Fish, and I would fucking stay at the house before I do that now.
Dude, totally.
You know what I mean? So yeah.
What are you working on right now? Like if you could pinpoint, I was going to ask you this. If you could pinpoint one thing that you're like, this is something not insecure about, but maybe insecure about that you're focusing on.
Like I said, I am working on being. I'm in a metal band as well, and I play in a female fronted a band that's kind of like Nico Case. If you had to, do a comparison.
I
Uh,
love the new pornographers. I
oh,
love,
dude.
yeah. So
Have
of
you ever
course I
have
love
you
Nico.
seen the
Yeah.
video where somebody throws a CD and hits the lead singer and Nico goes off?
No, he hits the male singer.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah, and he's just like, and like it hits him, and he's Canadian, so he's just nice about it. Well,
Super docile dude. Yeah.
Nico is from Virginia and a little bit of a hillbilly, and she's just like, whoever did that, if you do it again, I'll come out there and I will kick your ass. And she was like, if somebody wants to show me who it was, please. And the guy just goes, I don't have to protect myself because I have Nico in my band.
So yeah. Anyway, here's a song about my feelings.
Yes,
You
yeah,
know.
no shit. But
Yeah.
no, the metal band I'm in is kind of like a stoner, sludgy stoner metal band, which isn't a double bass kind of metal band at all. But I've been writing. I've been writing songs. I've got into writing songs for female voices. So like I play with a band with a female singer. I've been with her for about 7 or 8 years now, and I thought I needed just something new, wanted a new thing. So like
Hmm.
trying to write in a female voice, and I've written 2 songs for her. We've done one. We're working on another one. Writing songs and playing double bass, like just something. Cause man, what you were talking about before about where you're just like sick of your playing, I think that's more damaging for us to deal with because it's one thing to hit a wall
Hmm.
because if you're a learned drummer or a drummer knows how to get to somewhere, you know how to break it, get through that wall, but that plateau is a killer because you're just like I'm up here and there's no wall to break you through.
Yeah.
I've done all of this shit that's down there now. Where do I go from here? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
That plateau is a killer because I've been there too, where like actively playing and you just go like, ugh, I'm
Every
sick of,
choice you're making is just
ugh, hate why, ugh. I fucking did this 3 years ago. Like, you know
yeah.
what I mean? Like that. That plateau is a killer. It's a killer, man. So I'm kind of inspired by your story of I'm going to step back and like kind of almost reinvent. But then if you're reinventing as well, you also now have to keep that same muscle for your
Yeah.
gig. You know what I mean? So like it's
Yeah,
gonna.
I'm dealing with that right now.
I hear you. I hear
It
you.
sucks. It's you
Because I
know.
bet you've probably been playing. Because I actually opened up for Eve Six a couple years ago. It was right before you joined.
Mhm.
Because we figured out it was in 2014, and you
Yeah,
started
exactly.
with
Yeah.
them. When did you start with them?
2017, yeah.
Okay, that'd have been so sick if we'd like played a gig at some
It's
college
funny because
town
you mentioned West
somewhere.
Virginia, and I remember there was a band that opened up for us 2 summers ago, and for some reason, when you mentioned that you might have opened up, I beelined to that performance, and there was a drummer that kinda had your vibe. And I remember I was watching the opening band, and they actually, weirdly enough, it was such an alpha move, and we loved it. Like, we were laughing backstage. They ended their set with Inside Out.
Oh God, don't do that, man. The
No, no.
Replacements did that shit with Tom Petty and got kicked off a tour.
Oh, well, they did it in like a different way, and it kind of got the crowd like pumped up. They did it in a cool way, but
Were
I
they cool
remember
about
we
it
were,
afterwards? Did they come up and be like, haha, we hope you think that was funny, or were they being
yeah, we're
dicks
like,
about
that's
it?
nice. Your dressing room's near the porta potties, and don't touch our our Pop Tarts, okay? No, but yeah, I remember I was like, we didn't talk to them that much. I thought I think I was talking to the bass player afterwards, but I just assumed I was like, oh, that might be the show, but it
Nah, I
wasn't.
would never do that. That's such a dick move. Well, I mean, it's been done. The Replacements did it to Tom Petty and like played like American Girl and like all the Tom Petty hits. And Tom Petty was like, got fired him that night. It's like, y'all can go home.
I like that vibe though. That's funny.
I mean, well, okay, so you can tell we both come from punk rock scenes because
Yes.
that's so punk rock. That's very because it'd have been real punk rock to like do it as like a bossa nova, like
Yeah. Well,
do.
what do they do it? I think it was like like rockabilly. I think they did it in some kind of doom tick doom tick doom. You know, it was
Of course.
I was swallowing my pride. I was trooping. You know, it was pretty funny.
That's where like that's what you Instagram that. You put that on the you
Yeah,
live stream that when that's going on.
yeah. We should have. We should have. Yeah, I think we were just having too much fun laughing. Um, but yeah, I remember I did a podcast with Eric Slick from Dr. Dog, and he was actually at the show I'm referencing when we were talking. And I think I talked to you about this beforehand, but that was Eve Six. Sometimes we'll take if we don't have a tour going on, it's basically just like festival shows and whatnot. And so I think before that show, we hadn't played in like 3 months because it was in March, and so I think just December, January, February, there wasn't a whole lot of you know festivals going on, and so there's a song called Anytime, which isn't on any records, but it's on the movie Out Cold, and for some reason it's a hit. We have to play it every show, and there's this part in the bridge that if I start the song too fast, the bridge is all downstrokes, like palm muted downstrokes on the guitar. And it's like this little sweet spot that even the most proficient guitarist has to have that sweet. I mean, it's like all downstrokes, and I started that too fast. And I remember that John, the guitar player, kind of like walked up to me and kind of jokingly was just like, "Fuck you, man! I cannot play this bridge right now." He ended up doing it because he's honestly one of the best guitar players I've played with. But I remember that show. I was so conscious that like, man, I'm rusty because I haven't played these songs in 3 months. And of course, that was one that Eric, who's a drummer I look up to, was like, "Hey, I was at that show. You killed it." And I'm just like, "Oh my god!" Of
Dude,
course.
isn't that
So
crazy how like we never get out of that? It never stops.
oh, dude, I will never. I don't think I'll ever hear myself, and I'm not Mister like pessimistic. I'm a pretty, jovial, happy dude. But I'll never listen to myself and be like, I enjoyed listening to that from
I,
start to finish.
dude, I can't listen to old recordings because I'm just second guessing all the fucking time.
I will say though that there was this one time. Actually, it was in the room I'm sitting in right now. My roommate who's in a band called Drawing Room. The last few records, actually, I've recorded with him on. We have one that's coming out that I'm really excited about. But he was working on a new song, and I came down to do laundry, which is my studio's right there, laundry room's right there. And I was doing laundry. He's like, "Hey Ben, I'm working on this song. It's like 140 BPM. Can you just like go play something? I'll just put like an SM57 on the ground. Just play a beat because I don't want to hear an addictive drum loop. I've heard it 1,000 times." So yeah, I just like played kind of just very the band, just very kind of like easy rock, and gave him a bunch of different options: halftime, double time, whatever, bunch of fills. Went on my it took like 5 minutes. Did my laundry, went back upstairs. 3 weeks later, I come back down. Sorry. 3 weeks later, I come back down, and he's working on that same song. I had forgotten about it. Sorry, before I go back up, we listened back right after I recorded it before I took my laundry up, and I listened. Oh my gosh, sorry, my boss is calling me. Um, and anyway, so I heard it right after I recorded it, and I was like, dude, I hate everything I just did. Whatever, though, I'm just gonna do my laundry, walk upstairs. So that's the end of that story. 3 weeks later, come back down. He's working on the song, but I didn't remember it was that song. And I was like, "Oh, dude, that's a cool drum loop. Like, what are you listening to?" And he's like, "Dude, that's fucking you, you know." And the second I didn't associate it that it was me, I liked it. You
You
know what I
had to
mean?
trick yourself into liking yourself.
Yeah, because it's just like, I mean, they were very basic parts. I'm not saying I was playing like Hot for Teacher, but like it was just like the second you don't think it's you, you can objectively look at it and be like, oh, it's got a feel, and it doesn't sound bad. It's cool.
We need that Men in Black mind eraser, and we can enjoy ourselves again.
Dude, I would
We
pay
might
so
think we
much
might
money for
think we're
that.
really we might think we're really good.
I
like
actually think that, dude, if someone could invent that, even when you're like writing something like a beat or in the studio, if you could play something and then there was some healthy way to just everyone in the studio be like, "All right, guys, you guys ready? We're gonna like forget this for 5 minutes. Push the button, and you listen to it back for the first time for 5 minutes, and then write notes, and then go boop, and then you're back to normal, and you listen to it. You're like, oh, we all hated that riff. I thought we liked it, but maybe not.
the
Just
problem
so
is
helpful.
engineers and producers would abuse that.
Of course. I
Right?
mean, communism sounds great on paper. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They would abuse that. Like, I'm not going to have this motherfucker come in here telling me he needs to or that I need to turn a snare drum up. We're just going to
Exactly.
wipe his
Exactly.
shit. He's not going to remember that he wants a snare drum turned up.
Yeah, it's just yeah, I'll always have imposter syndrome to the day I die, and I've
Oh, dude,
just
I got it so bad. Like, I've got to the point now where, like, I make sure I work with producers and engineers that I trust, and I just quit thinking, and I just do it until they tell me it's done. Like, cause I
yeah,
can't, cause I'll never. I was in a band and we were very famous for this. We would do, and actually, two of those guys are on the Junk Uncle Radio podcast. Another shameless plug. We would do 40,
I love
50
it.
takes, dude. We do 40, 50 takes.
Mm.
And like, it's really good to get your studio muscles up, but like we had to get a producer that was, a known name musician or producer. I'm not going to drop that name because it's a name you would know. uh for him to be like, look,
It
man,
was Phil Spector.
17. Yeah, he pulled guns on us all the time. It was frightening.
Yeah.
But we had to have a producer come in and be like, look, assholes, like 17 was probably good, 35 was unnecessary, and like
Yeah.
40 is just abuse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was in that band for 3 years, and we would release whole records and just like not like them and not release them.
Yeah.
So I had to get to the point now where like I have to have someone I trust to be like, okay, get off the seat, you're done, because I'm callous to it. I can do 40 takes if needed, and I will do it until somebody tells me no. I've had to do that because I get too connected and I'll just worry. I can't sleep. Like, oh, I'll probably sped up on that chorus. I'm fucking
It's like
pushing.
before I was able to make music full time, I served, and I think everyone should.
I
Served
did
at a
many
restaurant,
years, sir.
and I would have those nightmares of like at like 3 in the morning. I'd wake up and I'm like, oh my god, I never got that woman her side of ketchup.
Oh, dude, I've had I did it for 7 years, man.
Yeah.
I served for 7 years, and that's when you know you need to quit because you're like, oh no, I forgot to put in that seven tops order 15 minutes ago. I'm going to have to get the manager to comp.
Yeah, I
Is your
will
eye
say that.
twitching with me saying that?
Yeah, dude. Well, I will say I do miss, and I guess this goes back to maybe being on stage filled that void, but I do miss the camaraderie you had of like when you're serving everything. So because I'm fucking crazy in my head, and when I'm serving, the outside world matches my inside world, and so it like osmosis
You
made
need the
sense.
insanity to
Yeah,
match.
which when you're on tour, when you're on
It's
stage, and
perfect.
when yeah, then it's all there. But I will say that I don't know if this metaphor is going to mean anything, but I a funny thing I learned about serving is that inserting chaos into your life and then it being okay afterwards is better than if nothing bad ever happened. Like this is a story I'll tell. So hypothetically, you're having like a great night. Like it's Friday night, it's packed, you know you're going to walk out with a few bills, you're having a great time, and things just running smoothly. And then you look over at that seven top that you were saying, you're like, okay, I don't remember putting their order in. It's been 45 minutes. If I if I didn't put their order in and I put it in now, it's going to be minimum another 25 minutes because I'm going to go in the kitchen and be like, dude, can you just make this right away? I'm sorry. I'll tip you guys out crazy, whatever. But you're in like a panic mode. And then you go to the computer and you're like, oh, I did put it in. And then you see like the busser like walk by with the food to the table. You're in such a better mood when there is the potential for chaos and then it didn't happen than if like your night would have just been smooth the whole time. Like if you were to rate that person's happiness on like nothing happened to like right when I saw that I did put the order in, 10 times higher.
Dude, you're such a natural musician. We have to have something horrible, even if it didn't happen, just to think that it happened to get to joy.
Exactly.
This is why we
It's so
drink.
sick.
It's
We're
sick.
fucking
We're
sick,
sick,
dude.
dude. We're sick, man. I was, I've
What
got
am I saying?
dude. I had a student the other day who's like 8, and I was trying to convince him that he needed to do something over and over for like 10 minutes, and he
Hmm.
would like play the ACDC beat for like 30 seconds, and he's 8. He'd be
Yeah.
like, Do I have to stop now?" And his dad's an amazing bass player. His dad's like the bass player in town.
Oh,
And I
okay.
hear his dad off to the side be like, "This is why I'm crazy, son, because we have to do things, 50,000 times over and over and over." I was like, "Oh, yeah, we're insane because of that."
I would like to think I do things like 50 times or 50,000 times over and over, but it's like if I were to actually film the audio of me practicing, it would be like 5 seconds of me doing like the Purdy shuffle to work on my ghost notes, and then just like 10 minutes of silence where I'm looking at Instagram, and then like I do like a 6 stroke roll for like a minute, and then go around the kit once, and then just go back to like it's yeah. I wish I had better discipline.
Yeah, but you're shedding now because you got that studio coming up.
Yeah, yeah. It's I need to. Yes, I
It's
need.
that fear,
Thanks for
man, that
reminding me. Thanks
the
for that.
last thing you want is it seems to me that the last thing you want is Max mad at you because you've taken 12 takes of this song.
I will say though, there is something about, and it's another reason why I miss live shows, is you always bring it, and
Yep.
maybe that's just my experience. You're nodding your head, so it looks like you are too. But for some reason, it always comes together for a live show. Like I always walk off stage. I mean, I've messed up for sure, but if I'm like feeling tired, or if I don't know if I'm gonna like this new song where like we haven't played live before, just it's that superpower you get at a live show
Fight or
that
flight, man.
you can't get it anywhere else. And I
Yep.
miss that feeling of like, oh, I just fucking nailed that.
Dude, I saw a meme
Yeah.
the other day. It was like, call your local musician because they're hurting and they're not going to say anything. Because we haven't had that. You know what I mean? Like
Mm,
we did like a 5 song live stream it's now been a couple weeks ago. And like, dude, I've always said I was too stupid to get nervous. And we were only playing to, we were on a sound stage and we were playing to the crew and like whatever band that was going to play after us, people
hmm
we all knew, that people I was comfortable with. And I was like, oh shit, can I do this? Like I haven't done this because that was a few weeks ago. And the last gig I played was May 29th before that, which was another live stream.
mm.
You know what I mean? Like when was the last time you did a gig? Because have you done any live streams or any like quarantine jams?
No, no. It was like the 25th of January last year. Is actually we played with Sugar Ray
Okay.
in Orlando, Florida.
Oh wow.
And I remember I was taking shots of whiskey with Mark McGrath, and it was really fun. He's a really nice guy. I actually had a
Dude,
really good time.
do you ever see, it's really old clip now, but he was on Music Jeopardy and that motherfucker knows everything.
He's a
He
really
was
cool
sweeping
dude.
whole categories. Like it
Yeah,
became a joke cuz like Mark McGrath knows everything about music. It was sad. Like I don't remember the other two like celebrities, but it
yeah,
really was just like a question they just look at him like go ahead. You know all
yeah,
the
yeah. No, it was a good time. And then Dean Butterworth, who's drums for Sugar Ray, and he also drums for Good Charlotte a lot too. And
Okay.
anyways, it was a really fun show. And this is more a bit about it, but I remember that on the flight back, it was Max turned behind me, or turned around towards me in the plane and was like, Kobe Bryant just died. And I was like,
Oh
no,
god.
he didn't, dude. And so, yeah, that's why that show
That's
seems
why you
forever
remember that
ago.
date.
Yeah. And it's also the last show we played. Yeah. Cause then we had 2 shows in February, that got canceled because people were nervous. And then by March, it was just no one's doing anything. But
So is this
yeah,
the longest you went without playing since becoming a winemaker?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right?
It's insane. And I totally, I mean, it's such a void in my life that I miss. It's
Dude,
so
after I did
insane.
those 5 songs, like, dude, I was gleaming like I'd played Madison Square Garden.
Sure.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, and then I kinda got, like, scared. I was like, "Shit, am I gonna always need this?" Like, because 'cause I'm gonna be 70 one day, am I gonna still need this high?
Well, that's also why I wanted to pivot my playing a bit, because I mean, um, Eve Six. Who knows how long we're going to be touring, extensively. But I mean, I want to be able to be like, my goal is to be in like a band that plays theaters, and if there's a third of the set that I'm playing congas and a shaker, but it's like just a seated like, I mean, the new pornographers, or those kind of bands. I envy like putting on that kind of show where it's like people. I want to be in a band where you can like hear a pin drop multiple times during the show, and that's the kind of
I
drumming
now
that
know why we get
you
to get
can play.
along so well.
Yeah, well,
I'm
I
the same
mean,
way, man.
that's
I think that like it's easy to pop a crowd to make them scream,
yeah,
but it's a whole other ball game to like when you get done and it's quiet, not because it's quiet because they're apathetic, quiet because they're like you affected them that way.
absolutely.
That's a, it's easy to get big pops. Just
Mhm.
play drums real fast. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Just like play
absolutely.
all your 30-second notes. And but man, if you can get that crowd to be like, oh shit.
Or just
What
hire the best light guy, which is
yeah,
honestly that's
oh god.
usually that's
Like
usually what it is.
like I call it light show as charisma.
Yeah,
Like
totally.
if your band had any charisma at all, you wouldn't need a light show, bro.
If you saw U2 at, at the Knitting Factory with the shitty light show, it'd be great, but it wouldn't be U2. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right. Yeah. Could we
So
get more TVs in here, please?
exactly. Yeah,
We need
yeah.
more wraparound inside glasses and TV screens. But
I
yeah,
do.
I now know why we get along so well. If I could have just get to, I've never really thought that I could get to arenas and shit. Like if I could just do 1 to 2 to 3,000 seat theaters
Well,
and do exactly what you're talking about.
you ask any band that's doing what you just said, you ask them what they miss the most. They miss that time in their career when they were playing the theaters, the venues. They always wish they could go back to that. That's that perfect Venn diagram of everyone's making enough money that we're happy, and there's obviously gray area there, but it's like everyone's like you're comfortable at that level, but yeah, I mean, I would say we haven't talked about him, but Brian Devendorf, who's the drummer for the National, like that
Okay,
band,
that's
that
the band.
level,
That's what we're talking about.
yeah, that level of, I mean, because they can definitely do, maybe not headline, but like later in the evening on a festival, they can probably still pull a lot. But yeah, that's like the level I would want to be at. That's
That's
like
all I
my
want.
apex.
We're not
Because I mean,
asking
I
for a
don't.
lot. You know
I
what I
just want
mean?
to be in a
Shit.
wildly successful band. It's all it's not too much to ask.
Yeah.
But because I'm always going to have different ventures in my life. I'm always going to, I mean, I always, my goal is to have like 7 different revenue streams, and so like the band at that level is just enough stress to maintain that. And then I can water the other parts of me that still like having nothing to do with music, you
Now, were
know?
you still keeping the podcast going when you were on tour with Eve Six, or is that something that's happened since Eve Six has been off the road?
No, it was going during,
So
it
you were doing it
pivoted.
in hotel rooms and shit.
Yeah, doing it in the back lounge of the bus, and yeah, it was like, hey guys, I know everyone's kind of paying for this right now, but can I just have this a third of the bus for 2 hours? Leave me alone. Um, but yeah, I had to pivot a bit, and I like it because when I first started the podcast, it was going to be a like interviewing different drum shops and going, because I was touring a lot, so I started off with, I mean, the first few shows of the podcast were not the Big Fat Five. It was just called Big Fat Snare Drum Podcast. And I went to Memphis Drum Shop, Nelson Drum Shop,
Do
and
you
was actually
Forks?
gonna. I didn't do Forks. I've actually never been to Forks,
Oh, okay. It's
weirdly enough, and
wonderful.
I know that
It's
they're a big
wonderful.
supporter of Big Fat Snare Drum, so I
It's
shouldn't say that.
wonderful. Their snare
Yeah.
drum room is showroom quality.
Oh, it's awesome. I think I like the vibe of Nelson because when I buy things, I usually don't buy new things. Again, I'm kind of like you. I'm not a gearhead, but I just like to know that something has a story behind it.
Mhm.
I don't have to buy the newest brand new thing that was at NAMM this last year. But if I'm like, oh, that like that nick on that by that little thing is just something probably happened at a bar in 1985, and I love that, and that's why I always go to the vintage shops. Um, Except I always get brand new snare mechanisms. I can't
Oh, dude,
stand old snare mechanisms.
I've got my main snare drum is a 64 round badge Gretsch,
Yep.
and it has a trick snare throw off.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
dude, I'm a woodworker. I'm pretty competent with wood. But that's one to clip out. Uh I was because I
This
had
will
to
be my promo for the show. Is that
yeah, no
clip right
shit.
there?
I'm good. I'm proficient with wood. Uh I had to that was the only problem with it, but it did work out because the strainer covered up the old holes, but
Mm,
I had to drill the holes and you know, I'm not one with like worrying about value.
mm.
but
Sure.
the drum shop that I worked at the time, that's where I got it, and I told him, and I felt like obligated. I'm like, I'm going to take this super shitty throw off, and I'm going to put, it's like almost $100, aircraft aluminum throw off. Those trick throw offs are wonderful,
Yeah,
and
so sturdy.
oh, dude, they're just wonderful. The click with the tightener,
Hmm.
uh, and I told him, and he was like, "Well, that's going to ruin the value." I was like, "I'm never going to sell it. I don't care. Like,
Yeah.
I would much rather this be operable than it be valuable."
Well, if you were to like say you make a drum now, and then someone from the future, from 70 years in the future, comes back, and he's like, "Hey, dude, I love this drum. Honestly, this drum you're making right now is still going to be usable in 70 years." You're going to be like, "Oh my god, that's amazing," but I might have to update the strainer. You're going to be like, "Well, of course."
Of course, you should.
In 70 years, I hope you guys have a better strainer than this thing I'm putting on.
Yeah,
You
because
know,
man,
it's
those
like
old ones. If you had like an old '60s Ludwig or Gretsch, those throw offs are garbage.
I have a Slingerland that I need to replace, and it's awful.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've got a '70 Slingerland. I didn't put a trick on, but I put a nicer. I think I put a brand new Ludwig one on there. But yeah, that was the problem with that old stuff. And I'm not interested in keeping it in original
Yeah.
condition. I want to be able to abuse it, and I want to be able to use it because
No, yeah.
I hate the idea of instruments under glass.
Sure, it's kind of a weird Venn diagram of like I don't like the super new gear, and I'm romantic about the stories behind it, but I'm not romantic in the fact that like you can't touch this. It's like I want the stories, but I want to play it. I
Yeah,
want it to be something that I can bring.
right.
I'm a drummer. I'm not a looker, you know?
I don't want the snare thrower to just fall down while I'm playing in the middle of a song,
Yeah,
which is
I get it.
a lot of those from that time do.
Yeah, yeah.
And
But
you're not endorsed by anyone. You are probably one of the first, uh, you know, drummers that I've ran across that's in a band that's big enough that you could just go do that. And you're not endorsed by anyone, are you?
I couldn't care less about
I
endorsements.
love
That
you,
is
Ben.
I
I
don't
love that
it's
shit, dude.
so I just don't care, man. It's like and it's so funny that I know I'm the
Are
dude
you
with
playing Sabians and Zildjians back there, dude?
yeah, sure. But why don't you go check it out? Maybe. I don't know what I pull out today. Um well, the thing is with Eve 6, I have my little Frankenstein set of cymbals that work for me when I go on tour, but a lot of times it's fly dates. And so my cymbals are provided. I don't have to ship them. It's just that's part of the back line for our contract. And so I don't have to play
So
my nice sim.
you don't check anything.
I do my one endorsement I do have, and by endorsement it just means I get like artist pricing. I'm not really like, it's not I'm not an active endorser of them. I'm not on their website, I don't think, but it's Porter and Davies, that like butt thumper that like
Oh, that thing's cool. I do like
I
that.
I fly with that thing because it's like sometimes I like that sub feeling because
Yeah.
then you can actually play your bass drum softer. If you feel that, then yeah. So I do fly with that. But yeah, I don't
You're not
fly with
checking a
anything.
snare drum because you can put a snare
Mm-mm.
drum in overhead.
You can, but with all the we actually Eve 6 has it down to where we have two bass drums, two we fly with two bass drums, two bass guitars, two guitars, and then I
So you have
think
your
that
stick bag.
our guitarist flies with his Kemper, his like MIDI head emulator
Mhm.
simulator. So he can just it sounds amazing. But yeah, I just fly with my sticks. Because I mean, again, I'm lucky the contracts that Eve 6 signs, we have to have our gear is what we have on our rider, and so I usually get two pristine Black Beauties, and I get all Zildjians. I either get a Yamaha, Ludwig, or DW set. I'm not particular. I don't like the look of Ludwigs, but to be honest, live they're super easy to tune. Same
Yep.
with Yamahas.
Oh, dude, so
Um,
easy.
but yeah, the gear's there, and then I can kind of fine tune it. But when it comes to studio, I mean, God, I have every possible snare you could think of. I mean, not a lot, but I have wood. I have Pearl. I have Ludwig. I have a Superphonic. I have uh, a bunch of different things. I have like what's it called? Rogers Holiday toms
Mm.
with like a leady and leady bass drum. I also have a DW bass drum, a Legacy bass drum from Ludwig, and then an Acrolite bass, or not Acrolite, Vistalite bass drum. It just depends on the day. Like I feel bad for the drummers that feel, and I mean, a secret of the industry is that even people that are endorsed by certain people, more often than not, they're not playing those in the studio. And just
Mm-hmm.
don't take pictures. But as someone who
Yep.
plays blah blah blah, loves his old blah blah blah.
You'll
Anyways,
love
but
that. You'll love when you see those guys using backline stuff, and they'll come and put a piece of tape on
exactly.
the the Yamaha out front.
Which yeah, I mean that's yeah. I just don't. I mean, I
Because you
love people.
could. That's the thing. Oh, you're just a few phone calls away from a bunch of free shit if you needed it, if you wanted to.
I'm sure I did that. That seems so stressful because then like you have
I
to
just
like
can't.
then you have to talk about it a lot. Like I would have to be like, hey, just so you know, my name's Ben. I played Yamaha, whatever. I just
Oh,
don't
I hate it.
care.
Oh, I hate it.
And
I was making one of my students watch a solo from the Rick Latham Advanced Funk Studies book, and the drummer had like his Pro Mark T-shirt on, and this kid's like 17 and he's getting ready to go to music school, and he has dreams of.
yeah,
I've been trying to talk him out of it, but I go out and show him my late model
you're a good
car.
teacher. Yeah,
Oh, dude, like, man, don't you want to like learn to code? Like, do
yeah,
that instead.
exactly.
Well, I'll take them outside. I've done this. I'm like, you see that '05 Honda Element out there?
yeah,
That's what you got to look forward to, bro. Like
yeah.
you got to really want it. But we were watching this video, and the guy was like, playing the solo really well, but he had his Pro Mark shirt on, and I was just like, Charlie, don't wear swag. It's the lamest shit ever. And this is a guy that works in a music store with all of the old men who's wearing their Fender shirts and their Gibson hats. Ugh, it's so not cool. It's not cool at all.
Yeah, I just again, it's just so stressful because then you have to. Because obviously, I work A&R, and well, A&R, there's
So does that mean that you have
a
to be the guy to make sure that people talk about your product?
it is. I mean, it's stressful. Well, there's A&R means artist and repertoire, which is usually people that back in the day, like you are the one who seek out artists and then cultivate them and kind of bring them in. And then there's artist relations, which is also AR. So there's A&R and there's AR.
AR.
I'm AR,
Right.
and yeah, I do want to make sure that people. We're so lax about it. We get it. There's like other brands that have similar products that we have the patents, so they can only go so far. But there are other products that do similar things to what we do. And if you're a Big Fat Snare drum artist and you use that, and we see you, well, we're not going to be mad at it. But we never see you play our product and you just want to get your discount and then just never post, it's like, what is it? I heard it on a podcast. It's like artist relation, like an endorsement is marketability in exchange for a discount. Like we're at the end of the day, while I want to be all, Sesame Street about it, like we believe in you, at the end of the day, the whole idea of endorsements is for us to make money. We're giving you a discount so you help us sell product. And the people that just say, hey, I play your product, I have for 10 years, so I should be an artist. It's like, thank you for the support. We're a business, so I appreciate that transaction is great. We're giving you a product and you're paying for it. Like that's where it ends.
Sorry, there's
But
about 5 or 6 YouTubers that get 10,000 or 10 million views on their cover, and they put us in their list in the description. That's much better for us.
exactly, it's just yeah. I probably shouldn't get into this, but it's just I think it's I'll say this. I think it's wrong for people to have that be a goal. To have a
Dude,
list on your Instagram bio to say this, and this, because honestly, I'm not putting myself in the list of drummers that are, have clout, but I'm saying we don't care.
we
I don't
don't.
care.
And there
I don't
and
care. Are you
honestly,
a good
there's
drummer?
only
Are
a
you a good hang?
there's
Cool.
a the good hang. That's one of our big things we talk about here on Know Your Role.
Yeah.
Is the hang matters more sometimes. And because man, I've been in a band where we had to fire the best musician that was ever in the band because of the bad hang. Like he was superior to all of us on our instruments, but like it wasn't working out. Like it worked great from 10 to 12. And the
Yeah.
rest of the time it was not good. You know what I mean? So the hang, we've talked about the hang a lot on Know Your Role.
It's the most important thing.
It's the only, it's got to
I would,
be.
especially when you, to even be in the conversation, you should be proficient at your instrument. Like that's, if you can't do the job, you're not even in the conversation. So have that be the baseline. The hang is the most important thing.
Yep. Yeah, because man,
When you're there.
you spend a lot more time not playing in a band than playing.
Oh, dude, I play. Yeah. I mean, when I'm on tour, it's 22 hours and, 22 and a half hours. And the rest
Hmm.
is all just, yeah. Well, there's no sleep in there. So I can't say most of that's sleeping, but, yeah,
Where's the craziest place you've slept on tour?
oh my gosh. Um, my sister's floor. I'm trying to think. It's craziest spot. I mean, I think we've slept in. We like camped out before,
Oh
like
yeah,
where
yeah.
it's yeah, like we've done that, but it's like not knowing till like after, like, oh, that's where we're staying. You guys have like a tent set out back for us. When you said we could hang at your house, that's nice. Um, yeah, I mean, just like underneath seats in vans, like not even like in the trailer or like we pull the seats out and put a like a mattress. I'm talking like
Yep.
if I were to, move my shoulder, that would like snap my shoulder kind of thing. Um, yeah, it's just anything. And to be honest, like I'm at the age to where like at a certain age or a certain time of the night, I can sleep anywhere.
Oh,
If I'm
dude,
if I'm horizontal, I'm good.
I definitely slept in a storage shed and
Oh, okay.
woke up beside a lawnmower. Yeah, and it was just
The
those kind.
lawnmower was still drunk, and you're just
Yeah,
like,
boy.
yeah,
Yeah, needing a cigarette.
yeah.
It was one of those,
What?
Dionysian type after parties, and I ended up. I don't know how I ended up out there, but I remember it was the lead singer and the guitar player being like, "Steve's definitely not in there." Like, well, he's nowhere, and you hear like, "He's
There's
nowhere
no
else."
way Steve's next.
Here's Steve in the storage shed. Yeah, yeah. Uh,
Okay, so it
touring
wasn't
isn't
like a
always
planned, like,
famous.
hey, so you're gonna sleep in the storage
Oh
shed tonight.
no, no.
Okay.
Oh no. It was, it was one of those Dionysian dream type parties that happen
Yeah.
from time to time when you're in your earlier days and things get wild and out of control. Touring isn't
Oh,
almost famous a lot. you know,
no.
because even when those guys are like, uh the gimmick of that movie is local band doing better. They were still in a tour bus.
Yeah.
Yeah, that like me, I was just like, no, y'all need to be in a 15 passenger van and like this, like stuck up like this. This is great touring.
What are your overall views of that movie in regards to the list of
Man,
music movies?
well, we'll talk about it here, and then also we're doing it. You'll hear it Sunday on my podcast with the fellas. It's a great movie if you delete the pedophilia. Is the problem with that movie because those
You are right,
girls
sir.
are he could have made that a very romantic story if he would have just made her like 19, but those are all girls that were not in high school or were in high school but not in high school. So as I've gotten older and become hopefully more moral and more ethical, I can't watch it without that. And because I love Jason Lee, because I'm a Kevin Smith fanatic.
Okay.
Billy Crudup's amazing. Everything outside of that, I think it's a great movie.
Sure.
But those roadies are trading teenage girls for Heineken, is what's going on in that movie. And I can't unsee it now. I can't unsee it. And at one point, they're like bragging about, like, oh, we spent last night with David Bowie. Like, hey, wait a minute now.
Yeah, don't incriminate him. He's
Yeah,
not. Yeah.
wait, yeah, come on. Because, that's based on Cameron Crowe's life. Cameron Crowe lied himself into being a writer for Cream magazine. It wasn't Rolling
Mm.
Stone, it was Cream. And the Philip Seymour Hoffman character was, an avatar of a real person. So,
Mm-hmm.
the thing is, Cameron Crowe might be just telling it like it was, is the problem. It might have been just like that in the 70s.
Yeah.
It was a different time back then, Ben.
Oh, Jesus.
So, what do you think about that movie now that I've ruined it for you?
It was. I mean, it's a kind of it's a non-music. It's more focused on not the band kind of thing. It's so I'd say it's hard to put it in the same category as the Bohemians or like the Ray stuff. But it was better than most, I would say. I
Yeah,
will say, I think we talked about it to pivot to a different movie. Rockstar is my number one when it comes
yes,
to. It's
it's
so
so good.
self-aware.
It is. It very much is. And I love the fact that you didn't know that was. And I love like who's the woman? Who's the love interest?
Jennifer Aniston.
Jennifer Aniston. That's
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
peak
Jason Bonham was the
peak
drummer.
Jennifer
Zach Wild.
Aniston. Oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
Jennifer
yeah. You
Aniston.
reminded me that it's Jason Bonham is the drummer.
Because we were talking about like it bothers
Yeah.
us when we watch movies. And you know who had a really hard job was the guy who played John Dinsmore in the Doors movie. Because those drum parts are out of this world. And it was Johnny
Yes.
Drama is who was the guy.
Who's that?
Johnny Drama from Entourage. I can't think of his real name.
Oh,
Kevin
okay.
Dillon, Matt Dillon's brother.
Oh,
Kevin Dillon
okay.
had to play John Dinsmore because like the guy who had to play drums on that thing you do, that's relatively easy drum part to mimic.
Yeah.
But man, try to go play Break On Through. That's a really heavy duty drum part. You know what I mean? That's like a
Was
crazy.
Densmore? Did he do a lot of how do I say, like when you repeat the like uh disciplined drum parts, or were they kind of loose? Like it's like he didn't play the
Loose. He
verse
was a
the same.
jazz drummer. He was a
Yeah, yeah,
jazz
sure,
guy.
yeah,
Yeah, that's the thing about the Doors is they were all jazz guys. And, you know,
yeah,
jazz dudes don't do shit the same way once,
yeah.
much less twice. So yeah, that was a really hard one. My favorite all time watching a drummer play, and I'm sure you've never seen this movie, uh, but it was John Doe from the band X, and he was the drummer, old at the vanguard of like American punk rock was this
Okay.
band called X. John Doe was I think the bass player, and he's the drummer in this movie called Pure Country, and has George Strait in it. And like it's brutal to watch him play because he looks like because man, you know, and we've talked about this in other videos on my channel. Like if you're in a band, every fucking member has their drum beat, and they can't wait to sit down behind a drum set
Sure.
and play it for you, right? So
What is
he
what is your well? I don't mean to interrupt you. Go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, what were you gonna say?
What is your go-to sound check thing?
I play that's a fucking great question. You should get in this business, Ben.
I should, yeah.
You got a future in this thing. I play um oh shit, In Bloom
Okay.
because we
Yeah.
at one point the band that I was in with two of the drunk uncles, we were doing things that would crack us up and try to
Mhm.
like make each other laugh over that because it became kind of a joke. We did this big festival up in I think Pennsylvania somewhere, and the bass player was like sound checking with like Jocko
Okay.
doing that, and the
Yeah.
drummer, you know, and like it's those guys that sound check with the craziest, hardest thing that they possibly can to
Mhm.
like let those other musicians know I'm here,
Yeah. The
right?
crew guy's like, "What?
Whoa, shit, man, he's playing Donna
Damn, I should
Lee.
quit. I should go on tour with them."
So we played after that band, and the bass player played that bass line from Fleetwood Mac. He went doom doo 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 doo, which is a super easy, great bass line.
Yeah.
So from that tour on, we always tried to find ways to just make each other laugh. And one night I started doing In Bloom, and the guitar player was like, "That's perfect sound check song because you're playing every drum individually. So
Yeah.
it makes people laugh because everybody knows it. You know, everybody knows that lick. It's like playing
Sure.
come. It's like if you like sound check with Come Together, everybody gonna know what you're playing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that is my go-to. Is I do In Bloom, and I'm trying to crack up the sound guy because you
Sure.
know if you can crack that nut because sound guys and ladies you how's the easiest way you can put it? They
They're just
sometimes
curmudgeons.
yes, they're just curmudgeons, and if you can make the sound person laugh, then they're on your side, and they won't be mad at you
They
if you
need
ask
to be
for
on your side.
and
Yeah.
they and if you need to ask for them for 7,000 hertz taken out of your snare drum, they may actually give you
Yeah.
that.
Oh,
So
nice little
yeah,
throwback. Yeah.
but give your yeah, that's my what is yours?
You know what? So it really is. I think usually, if I'm thinking back, because it's not a go-to one that was obvious when I asked you, but I think it's "Fool in the Rain," because
Doom,
that
doom,
one I can really see if my monitor is where I want it to be when it comes to
because you
my
can hear those
drums.
ghost notes.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that's yeah. It just allows me to realize if my drums are how I want to hear them. Um, Yeah, I think that's it, and then
That's
like
a
a
good one.
dum doom to doom doom to go. I'll do like some shuffle fill, some bullshit fill that probably isn't good, and then I'll get back
There's
to the
probably no
fill.
halftime
Oh,
shuffles in Eve 6, is there?
No, there's not. Unfortunately, not. And on the new record, there's not either.
So is the material done, and you know you have your parts? You just now need to go execute.
Yes, yes. It's basically demos are done, pre-production's done. It's just a matter of us,
Getting
yeah,
that
me doing the
endurance
final
back.
takes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Gosh, stop reminding me, man. I'm having a good night. Okay, I got my wine, got my good friend here. I don't want to like
Dude,
think about drums.
Dude, that week going up to that live stream, and that was only to play 5 songs on a live stream, just just a throwaway live stream.
Yeah.
Man, people on social media, y'all got to quit saying that live streams are passe, because that's all y'all are going to get. Y'all got to quit that shit, because that's all y'all are going to get for a while. You
Well,
know what
and
I mean?
I don't know how I'm gonna frame this, but I think the reason why I like the older records is because they didn't close mic everything.
Mm,
And nowadays you hear like you in a live stream, you know that everyone's going to hear everything you're doing. So back in the day, like 40 Days by Ronnie Hawkins, and it's like you could barely hear what Levon's doing. But he's probably having a blast because he's like, they don't fucking know what I'm doing, I'm not doing all these fills. And so it's like if he knew, like, would all these guys back in the day play the same and have the same confidence if they knew that every drum is being mic'd and it's going to be so up front in the mix, you
I've
know?
never thought of it like that. That's good. That's a good question. The jazz
Because
guys would be okay.
yeah,
They
but it's like
would.
the guy like with Traffic or like
Man,
those
have you ever
bands.
tried to play like a note for note Jimi Hendrix tune? You can't hear half of the shit's going on.
And he probably knew that because back in the day, they're just like, oh, I can kind of have more fun in the studio. But now you're like, I know everything is going to be so there that every ghost note and weird thing. I mean, yeah, but those old records, your favorite parts of them are the parts that aren't done well.
Yep.
It's like, oh, you can hear the rim click on the second verse of the, whatever, whatever, and you look forward to that.
Yep.
And I was actually because I'm when this comes out, it will be done. But I'm interviewing Liberty DeVito tomorrow from, of course, the Billy Joel band, and there was this cool interview with Billy Joel back in the day, talking about why the Rolling Stones are so rock and roll. It's because they mess up so much, but they keep it on the record, and so
Yeah.
everyone tries to mimic these things. They're like, how'd they do that? It's because that was take three. They messed it up, but it felt good.
It
And
felt
now
good.
that's this iconic, weird, stumbling effect that finds its way on the downbeat for the next measure. But you're like, how'd they get there? It's because it's a mess up.
It's the reason why people, and I bring him up all the time, it's the reason why people like the White Stripes, because they did that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like I was actually working with that producer who's, I'm not going to not that I'm going not going to name that. I'm not going to name that drop. I'm not going to drop
Okay.
that name. But he was just like, all you have to do is listen to shit before like 72. You know what I mean? Because he was like
Yeah.
talking about, there was probably maybe a band member, and this is right when the White Stripes were on top of the world,
Yeah.
and he had been making records and early late 70s
Hmm.
in LA. And he was just like, yeah, that's how we used to do that. Like it's like that's what we used to do, and it's not that big a deal. You can go back and listen to other shit and you'll like it just as much. It's just not what is on at that time. MTV actually was playing videos. So
Exactly.
but I think that's the reason why people love that band, and and that Jack White aesthetic is in everything that he's in. And I've talked about this a lot with my old band. uh we had the old band that Drunk Uncle Radio guys were on. None of us liked the lead singer, so we called him Voldemort. So back in the Voldemort band, he was super abusive. It was like we were in like a 3-way or 4-way abusive relationship. It was one guy abusing the other three.
Name his name, name his Instagram handle,
Oh
his social
God,
security
no,
number.
no, because I want him to be better. I love him because I'm a better musician. He was the guy in our town that was on Interscope and had done it and had been touring with Tom Petty. And his last tour was opening for the Allman Brothers and then Tom Petty. So he came that they lost their deal and he came back, and we all kind of like were a lot younger. This would have been 04-ish. And we kind of just took the abuse because he was the guy.
Hmm.
He'd made a record with Jay from Wilco, you know what I mean?
Oh,
So like
sure.
it's a weird thing. We're all better musicians because of it, because he brought like this professional thing to this local yokel college town scene,
Hmm.
and you can really see the quality of the music move up around here, because actually a guy from our music scene is now like a Grammy nominated country artist. This guy named Tyler Childers came out of the same scene.
Oh, damn.
uh but yeah, like there was a lot of abuse. It was like a very much, but we took it because we thought we had to, until finally somebody said, was like, y'all know you're like the hottest band around here, why do y'all let him yell at you on stage? And it was like, oh, we, you know what I mean? It was like one of
Well, it's good. I
those.
mean, you said it right. The vocalist is, I mean, the song is premier, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's like you kind of have to whatever they say, and they know
Yep.
that. And once they start realizing they really know that, that's when it's scary.
It's rough, man. Drummers don't get we don't get much say unless you're Levon.
But yeah, but speaking of like recording in real time and doing it all live, I mean, nowadays, I think that's why there's so much lack of musicality. And again, I mean, I don't mean to generalize, and I
No, man,
sound
you're
like that.
saying,
Oh,
if you've watched other, I can show you videos, I'm saying exactly the same thing. Are we related?
exactly.
I've said the
But
same shit.
it's like
Just because you
you
can
didn't.
make it perfect doesn't mean necessarily you should.
Or they'll do these things, they'll do these fills throughout the song. They know that they can make them perfect later on, or they'll like punch it in. But it's like back in the day, they did so much less because they're like, well, we're 3 minutes in this 4 minute song. If I try this fill and I fuck it up, then we got to do it over again. So they were kind of forced to be more musical and lay off a bit,
Yep.
which was good, you know.
Have you ever made a record like that? Like you're
Um,
in the room and the take is the take?
I've done records, I haven't done albums, but I've done songs like that. I've never done like a whole record of like 12 songs all in the room together. No.
I tend to like those, but I've made a few records like that. And
Hmm.
it's you have to really be, you got to be in love with your band, because you have to negotiate better, because you may hate a thing that you did, but because the other 3 or 4 cats did it wonderfully, you're gonna have to bite the bullet and say
Yeah.
this is the take. And the best records I've ever made were made like that. Like the one that we're setting on was made like that. And it's hard. You have to be really tight. You got to do a lot of pre-producing. You got to
Yeah.
really have your practice in. But I think it's superior, because I've done slow tracks and that's fun, slow tracking. But that there's something magical that when you 4 or 5 people nail it and you get done and we're like, we're finished. Maybe an overdub for solo and we'll have her come in and sing,
Yeah.
but we're done. This is one entity that was done at the same time. And that's that magic that we like about those records.
Well, and it forces you to not say as much because every note really matters. And if you try and do, like I said before, that fill, you're like, more often than not, I've never not played a fill and then listened back and been like, oh, I wish I would have done that fill. You know, I'm always like, I don't miss it. It's fine.
Yeah.
You
Just
know,
cut and paste and get that out of there.
yeah. If
Go
you
ahead.
can, I mean, dude, I do that a lot when like the punch in I do is me not playing the fill.
It's taking this drum fill out. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like
Yep.
the opposite, you
Yep.
know? So
And this
yeah.
is why you have been employed, because man, I've sat in on sessions of my buddies where somebody like stands on top of something like a rock and being like, no, this is the thing that needs to be here. I've been doing it live for a year, producer guy. Who are
Yeah.
you to take this drum fill away? And I
Yeah.
just kind of sat back and be like, oh, you don't get it, bro.
Yikes,
You
buddy.
ain't
Yeah,
getting it.
yeah.
And you can't. And I tried to, the one time I tried to convey some wisdom on this cat, because he was a lot younger than me. I was just like, dude, you can get by with that here. But if you go to LA, Nashville, New York, they're going to say next. It's like, you can't do that in a real music scene where there's 75, there's 75 people behind you waiting for you to fuck up, Ben. You know
Oh,
what I mean? You
sure.
kind of have that kind of gig. And that is we call it that local sound. Like that's that local attitude. Like,
Hmm.
oh, you've never really done it, because you shouldn't be married to this that much. You shouldn't be married to a sound that you've made with your hands.
Yeah, I have. Speaking of like local mentality and stuff. I feel so bad, but I have one of my. I won't name his name. He might not even watch this, but um, he is one of my dearest friends. I've known him forever, and I find myself giving him a lot of advice from someone because he moved to LA, then moved back, and but a lot of times I've given him advice on stuff he's doing in a smaller market, and I'm just like, that's a dude, that's a local mindset. Like he'll
Local,
ask me about,
local.
and it's like the thing you're stressing about right now would be a minute decision in LA, New York, Nashville, and like I kind of want to get rid of the guy, but I'm not sure he's a nice guy. Like all these things, I'm like, dude, that's just yeah. I know it's kind of a tangent, but really, it's like when you're in those bigger uh, situations and more stressful cities and stuff where things are moving, it really makes you focus on the things that actually matter, and the smaller things you just got to fucking just pull the trigger on those immediately. And it's a breath of fresh air when you realize that. But I feel like a douche when I'm talking to him. I'm like, dude, what you're dealing with right now isn't an actual problem. You know the right decision. If you were
Right.
forced to make the decision, you'd make it right now, and it'd be the one that we're both thinking. So just do it
Well,
and move on.
he'll eventually thank you for it.
Yeah, I hope
You know what I
so. I
mean?
hope so.
Like, because you, especially if you're in a local scene, you need to be, you need introduced to those people who are not, who of course we all start there and
Yeah,
go on, because like you just don't be married to that drum. We know you practiced that drum fill before coming in here.
yeah.
We know you thought this was going to get you laid, but
Hmm.
this song don't need it. Don't get married to anything, dude. I've My saying is, I will take a shit on the snare drum if that's what needs to be done. If that's what needs to be done, I will do it. I do not care, because I've been in that situation where like, ugh, bass players, and I love bass players, but they're like, I'm just not gonna play with a pick, man. Like, this, you can't do that anywhere else. Because if a producer says play with a pick, you fucking play with a pick, bro. That is local mentality.
So I actually am curious about this. What is your view? And I'm sorry, my chair is so squeaky. What is your view on the two different routes of being a jack of all trades or being really good at two or three genres?
Well, I've been forced to be a jack of all trades.
Hmm.
Uh, well, because I kind of want to be, because I'm very scattered in what I like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I like playing in my stoner metal band where our volume is about the same as a jet engine. But then I really like getting to play like the Lee Vaughn esque type with the female artists that I play with.
Sure.
I'll do musicals as well. I think it really depends on what you're trying to do. Are you trying
Hmm.
to be an artist, or are you trying to be a worker bee? Like, if you're going to try to be like the artist, the guy that's on the record, on the record label, and it's a band and that's the thing, then be that master of that.
Yeah.
Be Travis Barker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But if you're going to be that guy that's going to be, that what I call them assassins that just do everything it gets called, you got to be Ray Luzier. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? You have to be that guy. So it's really, I think it's really comes down to what you are trying to do. You know what I mean? And that actually comes back to you, because it seems like you've been doing some freelance outside of Eve 6.
Hmm.
Is that what you've been doing? Do you feel that you are trying to be that jack of all trades, and that helps you to get all of those recording dates?
I mean, a lot of what I do outside of Eve Six is indie and pop. Um, I I guess since the beginning of my career, I've always been like, if you need a metal drummer or like a hardcore drummer, maybe I can do hardcore. But for the most part, I'd be like, oh, I'm not your guy, and I'm totally fine being like, not your dude. But I'm trying to whittle it down even more. I mean, for popular music, like pop music, I can probably get away with playing everything someone would need me to play in the studio. Not like Jeff Beccaro stuff. I mean, I don't think I could do what he does with like Toto and the Boss Skaggs and stuff. But for the most part, what I'm trying to ask is, I guess I have trouble with when I'm in the studio working on a certain lick or work on all these different variations and sticking patterns, because I don't ever want to be in a situation where a producer is like, hey, can you do something like this, and then I'm like, oh my god, I can't do that. But that's never and I'm not saying it's because I'm an amazing drummer, but that situation has actually never happened. But because I'm so afraid of that 1% maybe might never happen chance that happens, I spend half my practice time working on these licks that I'll never use, and then I end up bringing those into my playing just because I've spent half my playing. I'm just like I'm going in circles. I know, but it's like
No, dude, you're
it's
talking.
that's like the conundrum that I deal with all the time.
Dude, I know you do. I know you do lessons as well. I have said those exact. If I ever like knock off and I want to keep the channel going, I'm just going to make you do Drummer TV because you have the same exact attitude that I do. I say it all the time. I've said those exact fucking words to students probably in like the last 2 weeks. I don't practice because I love practicing. I love performing. I love recording. I love writing. I love practicing with my band. I love workshopping songs. That stuff that's my fuel. I
Hmm.
fucking hate just sitting down for like 2 hours and working on the deliberate 10,000 hour practice type stuff. You know,
Yeah,
the Malcolm Gladwell, not practicing, the deliberate practicing. I
yeah,
hate that, dude. I tell my kids, like, man, I'd like to play Red Dead Redemption 2 just like anyone else. I'd rather just
sure,
sit in front of the TV and play some video games for 4 hours.
yeah.
But it's that shit, that's crazy, right? Are we insane? Because do other people, artists, act like this? Or do they approach their life like that? Because I practice out of fear of being disappointing to someone.
Of course, yeah.
This is crazy. We're insane, right? Is this
Just let it, yeah, let it happen. I've the more drummers I do talk to, they you get it a little more than I usually get the response from, but yeah, that's what it's I'm aware that I'm a nutcase. you know.
dude, I don't. The last thing I want to do is get a disappointing. Oh, well, I guess you can't do that from
But
like
has
a
that ever
producer.
happened? I mean, like
It
for
hasn't.
all the thing, yeah, for all the things that you practice on or you practice that you think is like, because I want to be able to pull this out if I ever get asked that. I've never been asked to do those things, but I practice them all the time. And it's like I've never maybe at the end of like an Eve 6, like kind of a grandiose
Trash
finale,
can ending.
I'll yeah, I'll do that kind of like like some Carmina piece like kind of thing.
Right.
But for the most part, I rarely use those things. It's like probably for the first 10 fills I learned when I was 11,
Yep.
and then maybe some cool bass drum syncopation, maybe.
Right. Right.
But you mean I can
Dude,
tell
I
like
work on my linear playing all the time, and I've recorded like a song that has like would be a linear part, but
it's
I am
funny,
still
linear playing has messed up my ability to keep the bass drum going while I do fills.
really
Yeah, so like I have to it was something I was consciously thinking about like a week and a half ago because I'll be like, playing a boom tat boom boom tat tat doom 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 whatever. And I realized whenever I do that my bass drum says just I'm just going to hang out for a second.
oh no.
And I would listen to myself back. I'm like, why do these fills always feel like it just loses it? And then I'm like, oh, dude, because your bass drum stops. Because I'm always, da da boom boom da da boom boom da 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 da. Like I'm used to like whenever I'm doing things with my hands, my feet are not doing anything.
Right.
And because again, it's this bullshit, stupid things that I learned, I practice, and it's just actually morphed into like now my bass drum doesn't keep the foundation going,
It's
but it's like a
maddening.
learned thing that I'm like, ah, but
And all you young drummers out there that are listening to him talk about this is a cat that is, up until March 16th was making his living playing in a very big band, playing sold out shows, and it never gets any better.
the
It's
goalposts
like
keep moving, dude. Yeah.
goalposts keep moving. I sent you, and actually, I'm about to. It'll be released because I'm going to release it. I think it's important. I sent you that fail compilation of mine
Mm-hmm.
where I'm recording the Primus song and I'm just like losing my shit because I did about 10 takes on that song because that song is impossibly hard to
If
play.
that's you losing your shit, then you are such a nice guy.
Dude, that's as bad as I've ever lost it in a studio. Like it was bad. Like I even later I was just like the producer Max. I was like, I'm sorry. He's like, it's good. He's a buddy of mine. I was like, oh, it's
Oh,
okay,
so
man.
you
I'm
had other
sorry.
people with you there.
Yeah, yeah. I had a producer.
Oh,
I
okay.
got
I didn't
yeah.
know if that was like
I'll
one of
make
those because
those.
I know that there's a green screen, but I thought it was like you just by yourself.
Oh
Okay,
no,
yeah,
because I can't get the I live in a townhouse, so I
okay.
can't get the quality that I can here, and I can't just play whenever I want to. So I actually I've got a little handshake deal with a producer where like I go over there and do these quarantine jams. I kick him a little money and
Nice.
and hang out. Uh, but yeah, I'm going. I sent that to students, to like adult students I have, and one student was like, "You mean this never stops?" Because he kind of thinks of me like on a pedestal, which he really shouldn't.
Yeah.
And he was like, "This never stops." Like, no, it don't at all. I tell the story of that Foo Fighters documentary. I think it's called Back and Forth, and they, it's a documentary about the history of Foo Fighters, and it kind of ends with them recording that record that they did in Dave's garage. Like, he
Hmm.
had Butch Vig just make a studio in his garage.
Yeah, yeah.
Taylor Hawkins, right? And he's like, "Yeah, I start a record, and I just figure I'm the worst drummer in the world, and
Yep.
everything, and I'm fucking terrible." And then somewhere along the line, I've just kind of get callous to it, and I figure that I'm not fired yet, so it can't be that bad. This is
Yeah.
Taylor Hawkins.
Yeah.
And I think that's why people are so, and especially musicians, we're so turned off by that arrogant guy,
Hmm.
by the arrogant dude. You live in LA, you know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. The
Yeah.
George Lynches of the world.
Yeah.
Because we look at them and be like, how can you even be this way? Like, how did you get here? Because I maybe would like a little bit of it, to not just hate my, like, not be
Oh,
able to
totally.
sleep.
I'm jealous as hell by that. I don't like that person, but I want to be that person in a weird sadistic way.
Just a smidge. Just give me a
Yeah.
smidge of like not wanting to be like, well, if you want to get another drummer in here, I understand. You become Eeyore
That's
in the
why, I mean,
studio.
I think the reason why I keep going, I mean, if I always thought like that, it'd be bad. It'd be bad news bears for me. But the fact that I can still, and maybe I recommend this for students, I guess it could go very wrong for them. But a lot of times I'll record memos of myself playing drums on my phone, just like put it across the room and play. And then I'll listen to it like 3 months later. And it's kind of like what I was saying earlier in the conversation about when you disassociate yourself from like that day and you just listen to it kind of a little more. um I'm never good at it's subjectively. Like you
I
look at
get
it,
that wrong. The objective, subjective, I get it wrong every time.
basically you like listen to it not uh on what you were feeling that day. You're like separate from that emotion of that day, and you're like, "Oh, this doesn't sound the it might not sound as good as you want it to sound, but it doesn't sound as bad as your self-loathing thought it was."
Yeah.
Um and then I mean, and there's even times when you have a record that you love, and you can find it all over the internet, where you can get like the stems and the solo drum tracks. A lot of your favorite records that your drummers, you think they kill it on, are kind of a little bit like, all right, well, his ghost notes aren't perfect, he's a little bit sloppy in the hi-hat, he rushed that fill, but because the guitar and everything is so, they're playing with each other, it works. But it's like, yeah, we're so hard on ourselves, and it's fucking annoying.
It is. It is. I just wonder if like are other artists, are accountants like this? Like, you know what I mean?
Well, if they miss a backbeat, they don't get, they miss that extra zero. It's
Yeah.
a little
Well,
bigger deal than if we rush the one.
that's funny, man. My cousin was a doctor, and I've said that before. Like, look, man, we're just organizing sounds in here. If like my cousin who was a surgeon, like he makes a mistake, someone bleeds out. Like, man, what we got to do? Got punch?
Yeah,
Things aren't really that bad.
yeah.
We're okay. Oh man, it's been a good therapy session here.
Oh, dude. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Speaking of rushing the one, I do want to talk about this though. Do you tell your students? I always tell them. I'll put it in my. I'll say something and I'll see if you agree. I don't want to put you on the spot. Um, I always tell my students that if you're going to have the option of being ahead of the beat or behind the beat, always choose to be behind the beat. Because all my favorite records, you can always tell it's kind of weird if someone's kind of rushing. It feels a little bit like, especially the bass drum.
Right.
If it's a little bit ahead of the beat, it sounds off. But if for some reason they're so like awkwardly behind, you kind of convince yourself like, oh, it just means he's got pocket or she's got pocket.
Abe Laboriel Jr., man.
Yeah.
Dude, I
Or
know a guy that
Carmen
doesn't.
Apiece or Pice, whatever, however you say.
Dude, I've never figured out how you say it. A peachy? I don't know. I've never said. I try
Car-
not to say it because
Carmenia
I don't
Pice.
know.
Let's just say that. Let's
There
say
it
it
is,
definitely the wrong
Pice.
way, and then no
There
one
it
can
is.
call us out.
Yeah, I
But
know a guy that doesn't like Abe Laboriel because he's like, just got to hear Abe Laboriel slow down all day. I was like, I think it's fucking great. I think the only guy that you could say, like, if you're going to be a Stuart Copeland guy,
mm,
be that, and and Travis Barker plays on top. But yeah, I could see that. Because well, and then the thing is, like, if you're behind and if you speed up, then you've kind of split the difference.
Yeah.
Whereas if you speed up and you slow down, that's death.
Yeah.
You can speed up, but slowing down is death live, I think. Unless the song calls for it's like a ballad or it's like you're going
Sure.
from a long like yeah, I don't want to say too much absolute because like my favorite Los Angeles poet Charles Bukowski said absolutes are always the most hilarious. Uh, but as a rule, you'd want to rather speed up than slow down. Man, I've
Mhm.
spent my that's a big thing that I've been trying to do lately is trying to get behind.
Yeah.
It just seems like the pockets more. And that's why I'm obsessed with Abel Boreal right now because that
Mhm.
dude lives like one half of a 30-second note behind the metronome. He just has
Well,
camped out right there. And it seems a cool place to be.
I will say that I've actually been trying to again leave on to bring him back, but
Mm.
I have my left hand glove right here.
Oh, yes.
Uh, but I've noticed that when I play traditional, I am so much more behind the beat. I can't do the all the things I want to do, but it's just for some reason, and I play the ghost notes so much better.
Yep.
Um,
I don't know why that is. I've thought about that too because I play traditional most of the time, but in the metal band I play matched, and when I
yeah.
play matched, I'm on top.
Hmm.
Speeding up like a metal drummer does. And when I play, why is that? I don't know. I don't understand it.
It makes my every I don't know, and maybe if I play it enough, it'll morph into like my normal thing. But I think it's because I'm a little bit not used to that whipping motion that it just feels good. But
Did
it
you
just makes
march
me.
in high school?
I did, but it was a small like school. Like we had like for the parades, but we didn't do any of the drumline stuff. It was like
Okay.
I had my cadence that I knew and I
Yeah,
knew
yeah.
how to march, but it wasn't like a drum line.
Okay, okay. Now, did you go
Yeah.
to college or did you go to college for music besides the wine, besides
Nope. I
going to
went to
school?
college for audio engineering and then just got that to be a basic transfer 2 year at a community college.
Hmm.
And then, yeah, so I have my first 2 years done and then went to wine school in Seattle because this is actually after I was working at a winery for like 3 years. I actually wanted to go to school for enology, which is the science of winemaking. There's viticulture, which is like the growing the grapes and all that, and then enology is the science of actually fermentation and whatnot. And yeah, then Mike Herrera from the band MXPX kind of I was writing with him and for his solo record, and it was like 3 days in a row that the sessions kind of went longer, and I had to skip class, and it was the beginning of the next quarter where like, well, if I drop out now, I don't have to pay for the quarter, so I just ended up getting back into music because of my Carrera, and I don't know if he knows that or not yet, but yeah.
And you're not sure if you should thank him or thank him or not.
Thank you, Mike Carrera. I'll thank you directly. Yeah, where's the camera? Right there.
There we
Thanks,
go.
bud.
So, could you make wine? Would you be able to make wine right now if you had
Uh,
the implements?
No. No.
Ah,
Like if it's been so long. I mean, this is like maybe 10 years ago. I mean, it's
that's a really interesting thing. I've never met anyone that went to winemaking school.
if I had the right if I had another assistant with me, we could probably figure it out, but it's a very technical which yeasts to use. Like there's a lot of numbers
It's
involved. It's
more
a
technical than
science.
brewing beer, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've never brewed beer, so I can't say. I mean, I did. There was that little Mister Brew where
Oh
you got
yeah, yeah,
like the big plastic keg.
yeah, yeah.
And I have made balloon wine before, which is
What is
basically
balloon wine?
you put it in like a 5 gallon bucket, and when sugar yeast makes sugar convert into alcohol, that's the most basic form of fermentation.
Right.
And when sugar is transitioning into alcohol, it releases CO2. And so with balloon wine, um, you basically put like a balloon over the top so it like kind of like slowly allows the CO2 to be released, so it kind of goes up and down, and it actually like it can take like 15 to 20 days, and you'll actually see the balloon go up and so it's a very cheap way of making wine,
Did it
but
taste good?
no, mine didn't.
So,
When I was an assistant winemaker, it was like I was working with a crew of like 15 people, and we had like huge vats, and it was a 20,000 case a year production, uh crew, like an operation.
Right.
And so I was going to school to be the more like, oh, I could be the dude that could then be the boss for those 15 people. But shout out to Chris Harrington, or sorry, Chris Farrington and Christina Van Lobensel's, who are the people from Arborcrest that honestly, like, I wasn't playing drums that much those 3 years, but they were, probably some of the three best years of my life. I love that crew at Arborcrest.
So that's an interesting thing to talk about. Like, were you just not touching drumsticks?
It was weird, man. I mean, because I lived in an apartment, and it kind of went back to the very beginning of our conversation where I was kind of burnt out. I mean, I didn't start like consuming wine to my mid 20s, but in my early 20s, I mean, I was just in a punk band. I was smoking and drinking, and it was just, burning the candle at both ends. And so I associated drums with this
Bad
fail
stuff.
and a failure of myself, because I grew up with Green Day and Blink, and you used to be three best friends, and it just fucked the world,
Us
and then
against the world.
exactly, and then when I realized, like, oh, you have to have a business sense, you have to take it seriously, and you have to have discipline about it. I kept looking at that as this negative thing. So it was really, I mean, wine was like my ability to still be around artsy people, because most people that were my age that were into wine were tattooed. I mean, you can't see, I'm fully tattooed in this, like, Mr. Rogers jacket, but I mean, like, I liked being around fully tattooed indie, like-minded people. Not that it was all about aesthetics, but like a lot of younger people that were into wine were into the same things as me, and so it was
Yeah,
like, well,
yeah.
I'm not in a band, but I'm
You
still
found another tribe that you were
exactly.
comfortable in.
And
We're dude.
so
We're all trying to do the. We're all trying to be the bee at the end of the uh, No Rain video by
I
Blind
don't,
Melon. Do you know what
I
I'm
don't get
talking
the
about?
reference. No, no, no.
Oh no. Okay, the Blind Melon video with the bee girl, and then like she's
I've
kind of
actually
like,
played a show with Blind Melon, but I
I
don't know
have
the
too.
reference.
I got thrown.
Yeah.
I got thrown off their bus. I got thrown
What?
off Blind Melon's bus. Yeah, because
Did
they're
you bring
like
up the B story? Is that why?
they're teetotalers, and I didn't know that, and I played it on my birthday, and I came on their bus like two handed.
Oh, okay.
And they're very. This is when they got back. Remember, it was when they got back together, and they had like that lead singer that kind of sounded like Shannon Hoon.
We played with them. We actually did like a little 3 or 4 day tour through Canada with them, and we played with them in oh my god, Burlington, in Ontario, I want to say, but that was the first show. And
It had to be right when
anyways,
I
yeah,
did it because they were.
2018, I want to say.
Oh, so they've done it since then? Because
Yeah.
I played with them before that, and they had a guy that really sounded like Shannon Hoon. But no, what I was saying is the video for the Blind Melon song "No Rain" is this girl. She's this like kind of like it's freak outsider, weirdo girl, and she got glasses on. She has a bee suit on, and she's out of place everywhere she
Like the letter
goes.
B or a
No, a
bumblebee suit?
bumblebee. She's a bumblebee, and everywhere she goes at the beginning of the during the first part of this video, it's like, "Get out of here! You're a weirdo. We don't know." And then at the very end of it, she comes to these gates in this like kind of like garden park type thing, and she opens up the gates, and it's a whole bunch of other people dressed up like bees. And then she's like so happy she found her tribe. I've thought that like, oh, we're trying to find our tribe. We're
Or
trying to
B
find a thing.
people?
Our bee people, yeah. And that's what the one people were.
Yeah,
Well, there
I
had to be other musicians in that scene, right?
it was mostly musicians,
Okay.
Yeah, honestly. It was
I
mostly like, what
figured.
the hell are we doing here? Yeah, but yeah, it was just like-minded people. But I mean, yeah, I had a drum set. I still played, and in my head I was like, I'm a drummer, because that's always been my word, you
Yeah.
know. But yeah, it was and I had some bands in that. I had a band called The Young Professionals, that I'm not on any of the recordings. All the recordings are like canned drums, but I
Mm.
was part of the programming of them. And yeah, it was a weird time, because now I like, if I go a day without playing drums, it's kind of like my neck hurts.
Yep.
It's like, I'm like, what's
Yep.
I'm like carrying this weird stress in a weird way. But yeah, it was, well, I guess nowadays if I go on vacation, I'm like, I haven't thought about drums in 3 days. This is the best vacation ever.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But if I'm just, casual life, it's weird that if I don't play drums for a day. But
I
yeah,
definitely
it
want to
was about
talk to
3
you.
years.
I want to talk to you after, and we're now Instagram message buddies. I'm sure we will when you
Yeah.
get to play that first gig because I want to hear like if you had that, if you have that, just like, oh my god, how did
It'll probably be chest pain. It'll probably
how,
be like my heart rate's at 300.
how did I go this
Like just
long?
okay, oh damn it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
really can't wait to hear you talk to you after you do that first gig, because it seems like there might be a thing that's going to happen that you maybe not be able to talk about. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, that's a really smart move, by the way.
Right, yeah.
That's good business. Yeah, it's crazy. There's so many musicians in this world right now that would have never went this long without playing. Like something this
Mm.
drastic is the only thing that would have kept us. Because like, man, we were talking about this the other day with a couple of buddies of mine. Like, how many of those stories do you have where like, I drove 8 hours, we got paid $40, we played
Mm.
for 25 people, and you'd die to do that right now. Like,
Oh,
I would,
absolutely.
I would drive 100 miles to make $50 right now if I could just play a gig.
And I mean, Eve 6 is we don't tour year round. And
Right.
so I still do the random tours with, artists that are a severely pay cut from Eve 6 just because I liked being busy, I like doing it, and then towards the end I was like I'm not doing these anymore, and then I'm like I would totally do all that over again
Call
a
me.
billion times over. Um yeah, I mean it's it really it makes you take inventory of why you're doing all what you're doing. It's like, am I on tour just to say I'm on tour? Am I on tour because I don't want to deal with home life? Or am I on tour so if someone says, hey Ben, what are you up to? I'm like, oh, I just got back from tour. Like, why are you actually doing what you're doing?
And have you
And
found that
it's
you're doing it for the right reasons through all this?
probably not. No.
I'm
No.
only in it for the endorsements. I'm just trying to
If
get Zildjian.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's all. No, I mean, I haven't figured that out. I haven't figured that out why I do what I do. I mean, obviously, I'm chasing some dragon that I had when I was younger. But yeah, I struggle with this. If we're getting real, it's like, do I want to know that I'm well? I used to want to have like to walk into a bar, like some bougie bar in LA and Hollywood, and have someone be like, "Oh my God, there's Ben. He is the best drummer. I want to be exactly like him." That's what I kind of wanted people to say when I walk by.
The respect of your peers.
But nowadays, I want someone to be like, "Hey, Ben, he makes the best choices, dude. Like, he went to that floor tom in that second verse of that song. I would have never. That's what I want people to say when I'm walking away or walking by them. And so that's kind of my North Star nowadays of like why I do what I do is I just want to, if I have downtime, the best way for me to spend my downtime is to listen to music I haven't, heard before. And that's like the best practice ever is to do that kind of thing. Because yeah, I guess that's just the reasons why I do anything is not so much pure respect, but just pure respect in a different way. It's I want them to be like kind of like with Levon Helm. He's not doing these like 6-stroke rolls all over the place, but it's like you know kind of after the tag of the weight, he does different fills every time that are a variation of the same thing, and you're like, it's just so
Perfect
ballsy.
composition.
Exactly. I want to be a good compositional player.
Dude, you said it, and this, I think this will wrap us up too, is that choice.
Mm.
Like if you figure out it's not about, like we were talking about before, just playing every possible thing and making it as cover of Modern Drummer magazine as you can. It's those is feeling good about like, I made the right choice. I had the
Mm-hmm.
tools to make that choice, and I made that choice.
It's
And
scary
like,
too
it is.
to
You feel
make the less
exposed.
choice. Yeah, yeah,
You feel
exactly.
exposed. It's so much easier to just fucking play a lot. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
dude,
You don't have to
just
make any
playing,
choices.
just playing like "Moving Out," by Billy Joel, which is, I believe, the first song on The Stranger. It's just tat, boom, tat, and it's just like that right there. That beat is so scary because like you can't hide behind anything.
There's
They can
nothing to
tell
hide
right
behind.
away, and like that's yeah.
Yeah, that is, man. The simpler you are. I've been trying to get that over on YouTube. If I always say about my channel is I am the one little guy in the forest trying to remind people that it's not about drum Olympics.
Yeah.
It's about like I just did a video with Krogbin. They're
Yeah.
this band from out. Do you know who that is? Have you ever seen them? They're like an
Yes, yes.
instrumental trio.
I I I heard them from Song Exploder, the podcast,
That's a great podcast.
and they talk about one of their songs, but they also do like live recordings that they try to do it in real time. Anyways, yes, I
That
have heard of them.
drummer, that song that I did, it was the same drum beat. It was just like Al Jackson Jr., slinky
Yep.
Memphis soul shit. And I was trying to, and it's such a hard thing as a teacher to try to get across when you have cats that are like blowing all the chops over top of a cover of Billie Jean,
Hmm.
uh, to be like, this is so bold and and confident, because this whole song was just him going doom, ga, dum, ga, kum, ga, dum, ga, perfectly in the pocket. There was a drum fill at the beginning of the song and at the end of the song.
Yeah.
And as a teacher, this will sound a little arrogant. You need you need wisdom to understand why that's so perfect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because anytime I, I did a Meg White video, and the comment section was, simp, like she's so easy. I could do that. My 6-year-old, you could do that. Like, oh, you don't get it. You don't get it. And you
Yeah.
kind of have to have an advanced understanding of the subject to realize that like there's a beauty in that perfection of that same thing all the way through. You know what I mean? That takes. I
Well,
think it takes a lot.
100%. I mean, think of it, and I've never articulated this, so I'm gonna butcher this. But think of the dude that just wears a white t-shirt and jeans. Is that ever out of style?
Nope.
You can fast forward or rewind to any moment in history, and the dude that's wearing like a nice tight white shirt, denim jeans, and like black boots always looks cool. So
In the
just like
50s, right now,
just be a t-shirt and jeans drummer. Like I mean, just like that's or like honestly, the hat you're wearing, that's never out of style, in style. It's just a classic look.
I hope
That's never
so.
going anywhere.
I
It
hope so
is, you
because
know.
my bald head is it shines
I
in
knew
the
you were gonna
videos.
take that in that way because we're like artists, and so
Oh no, I mean like I love classic, like man, I'm big into fashion. If you're a fan of the channel, you know that I try not to wear the same shirt twice. Oh dude, I'm
I
bad.
wear the same damn sweatshirt in every podcast.
Dude, I was gonna say I love that you're kind of always dressed like a Russian mobster in some of your podcasts because you're always wearing like what looks like a tracksuit.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
It looks like
it's all about intimidation, dude. You got to
there
be
you
the
go.
alpha.
Man, you got to keep Max fucking scared.
I don't know. I'm 6'1". Max is like 6'5", and so I could never
Yeah,
scare
he's
that
such
guy.
a big. That's something I've realized when we played with him. I was like, that is the biggest bass
It's a
player I've ever seen.
big redhead, dude. Yeah. So we had one of the guys in fitness. His name's Kenny, and he's Filipino, maybe five. Oh God, if Kenny's watching this, I don't mean to like. For the sake of the story, I'm going to say Kenny's 5'7",
Okay,
and so he was like doing Max's bass teching. When our normal tech can't come out, we'll ask Kenny to come out just because he's a homie and he's really he's a technology geek, so he knows how
and
to
he's
do
a
it.
good hang.
Exactly, great, exactly. And him holding Max's bass. I'll send you a photo. Actually, I'll ask him for the photo, but it's like literally almost on the ground because Max plays his bass down far. Like we have to get custom like straps for Max, and then to have Kenny holding it, it was just like so funny. Anyways, I could
well,
not intimidate Max. Is what I'm trying to say.
well, Ben. Before we get off here, I would like to thank you for coming and spending time on the channel with me.
Thanks for having me, man.
One of the things I love about the music scene is you meet your other bees. You meet your other
Oh,
bumblebee people. You know what I'm saying?
hell yeah,
Like,
dude.
you know, our romance started with a Levon Helm podcast, and also let's push that. I'll put that in the link in the description as well. Me and Ben had a God, like an hour and a half conversation about our
Mm-hmm.
love of Levon Helm, and we
Yes.
may have something cool in the future that will you know, go right up that alley. Can't talk about
Very
it yet.
cool. Yeah, you're saying
Very,
you're being
very
humble
cool.
about it. Yeah, yeah.
Very cool. We may be, I might be seeing you in Woodstock in a few
Yeah.
months, hopefully.
Yes.
But Ben, before we go, thank you so much for spending time with me. And you know, plug your shit. Is there any? Are you trying to, you know, get all your plugs in?
Yeah, yeah. I'll be selfish first on Instagram. Ben Hilzinger. Uh, I'm sure you're gonna tag it below,
Yep.
but BenHilzinger. Big Fat Snare Drum, which is the company I work for, which is like drum overlays, and we talked about it earlier, but they're just great. Go check that out at bigfatsnaredrum.com, all that stuff. And I have a podcast through them called Big Fat Five that we basically invite on my favorite players, my favorite geeks about people, and just dissect the top five, whatever the subject is that day. Usually it's uh, dissecting a certain drummer's playing, or that drummer that I'm talking to's influences, or if I have people like, Zach Lynn from Jimmy Eat World, he broke down his favorite Jimmy Eat World songs from his career. I had Kirk Biscara on, broke down his career. So just really fun, and the format is very focused. So it's easy for me to be a host on that show. But yeah, Eve Six, the song Black Nova is was just released. Grim Value, the EP, will be released in June. And we have two more singles that will be kind of loosely released before the actual album comes out, which is fun. One of them is called "I Want to Bite Your Face," which is it's probably my favorite song. It's about when you love someone, just like, that when you think a dog's so cute, you just want to just squeeze it to death.
I met someone who gave a name to it.
What is it
A
called?
girl that I worked at a restaurant with. She said it gives you the sashies.
The
The
Sashis.
sashies is what she called it. With that like cute rage or the love rage, like,
Yeah.
oh, look at this fucking turd. Yeah, she called it the sashies. I know
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about.
The lyrics are
And I
really
think
fun in that
phonetically
one.
it works with what you're trying to say.
Totally. Yeah. It's, you just want to just bite someone's face off because you love them. And so, yeah, a lot of fun stuff. But the main thing I'm pushing is, yeah, the Big Fat Five podcast. You just search Big Fat Five. It's on all the things.
All the things. And dude, thank you for having me on there. That was a big honor to get to talk to somebody that, because let's be honest, man, not enough people know that Levon Helm was one of the greatest human beings to ever live.
Drummer and human beings. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Well,
That
Ben,
was actually one of my favorite podcasts to record because it's always fun when you have the unfortunate thing about having a podcast that has a guest on is that the quality or the energy of the podcast relies on the guest. And I definitely have had some people that just aren't talkers and, or just don't like to talk about themselves a lot. But it was cool when we both have a common interest and we just went a million miles a minute talking about this guy. It was like, came up for air and you're like, oh my God, it's an hour and a half later.
dude, you said it was going to be released at, midnight your time, which makes it 3 o'clock my time. I stayed up that night so I could listen to it. I was up until like 4:30, 5 o'clock, listening to it, and then
I had
I
the
listened to
most
it again. I
I had
love
the
it.
most responses from that one. A lot of people tag us and say that this was the funnest one, and
It's my favorite thing. I've got a YouTube channel that has almost 150 videos on it. Uh, it's my favorite thing I've ever done on the internet.
oh,
It's my favorite thing. Like, I'm from the South. We're morbid down here. If I make a good funeral, I want people to think, oh, there's something you can go back and listen to with him. Like,
that's
this is the
awesome,
thing that
man.
you can remember this guy from that podcast. I was in such a good mood for the days after that because I think
Me
we
too,
did.
man.
I think we did good work.
We did him
And
justice, man.
actually,
I think, yeah.
we somebody out there told us we really did good work, and that's a
Yes, who
teaser
would
for
know?
who would know, and that's a teaser for later.
Hell yeah, dude.
Well,
Yeah.
Ben, thank you so much, brother. Stay safe, and good luck in the studio. You're going to do fine.
Thanks,
Remember
man.
this redneck voice saying like, Ben, dude, you're good, brother. You
Although
can
I
play.
gotta not think of your beard. Your beard is so much better than mine. I
You
gotta,
got to go to a bar. You got to. I'm telling you, the trick is you got to let it grow out, get real bushy, and then you got
yeah.
to go get it. You got to go to a gentleman's barber.
Okay.
Like, there's a lot of shaping and money in this beard. Like, I spend $25 every couple weeks to get this. If that's the key, you got to go. And dude, in LA, the hippest place in the world, there's all
Sure.
kinds. And your barber must have all kinds of tattoos and as many piercings as possible. That's your
Yes,
guy.
exactly.
That's the
Exactly.
one. And and you just tell him you want the shaped beard, and he'll hook you up.
It's awesome, man. Looks great.
Well, Ben, thank you so much, sir. And I'm sure we'll be talking offline. And thank you for being on Know Your Role.
All right, man. Peace. See you guys.